welcome to the first of many deluxe overpriced DVD sets of The Simpsons. With 280-odd shows in the can, and no end in sight.
Not even close.
You might be able to complete your Simpsons DVD collection just before the next format comes along.
There were like 2 or 3 now that they've,
Thanks for buying.
couldn't do it.
What we have here are 13 crudely animated episodes first aired in 1989 and 1990, all spiffed up, cleaned off, and augmented with bells and whistles, bonus materials, and self-pitying audio commentaries. If Homer, Marge, Bart, and Lisa, and Maggie look weirdly off-model, if their voices sound spooky and different, and if the animation seems particularly glitch-filled, just remember this. We didn't know what the hell we were doing back then. But you know something? We wouldn't have it any other way.
Macaroni.
That's correct.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Rachel.
This is Shelf Life, a compendium of a brother and sister team going through everything that is in the zeitgeist of culture, be that movies, TV, video games, comic books, I said comics, wrestling, sports. Did I hit everything?
I think so.
Well, I don't know. There's like a million things that we could do with
Entertainment.
this show. Yes, yes, that's right, entertainment. We are entertainment. The point of this show is to figure out whether or not anything and everything has shelf life, meaning is it worthy enough to be on your shelf, digital or physical. In this case, very importantly, we have the physical copies of the beginning of one of the most important things in our lives. At least for me, I think for you as well, because now in this episode 3 of Shelf Life, we are delving into TV land. We're leaving movies, and we are going to for me personally, my personal favorite show of all time, The Simpsons.
Yes. I don't know what to add to that.
Well, I guess, I mean, Rachel,
we grew up with The Simpsons. It was out before I was born, and then it was always on the TV.
This is, and we kind of said it in the first couple of episodes. We started off a little lower stakes. We started off a little small. Why are we going full bore here? And we are starting our journey through television with our journey through Springfield in The Simpsons. I would say it's because you've got to start with the thing that influences everything else. And that is The Simpsons. Absolutely. Without The Simpsons, there is no King of the Hill. There is no Family Guy. There is no American Dad. There is no The Office. There is no Parks and Rec. There is no Community. There is no Rick and Morty. There is no Futurama. There is no any of them. Any of them. Without The Simpsons. It doesn't just influence animated shows, it influenced all of television. There is no Arrested Development, there is no Always Sunny in Philadelphia, there is none of that stuff without The Simpsons. I would wager, too, there is no Ratatouille, there is no Toy Story, there is no Wall-E, there is no Iron Giant, there is no Disney without The Simpsons. It is the influential spot of anyone our age, whether they know it or like it or not. And we're going to prove it starting by going through season 1. Now,
that was a very bold claim, Kevin.
Thank you.
That was very bold.
We got to have the hot takes on this show, and that's my hot take. I mean, obviously I'm being a little, hyperbolic and funny and over the top, but it's a very influential show for us. It pretty much defines the way that we talk and taught us how to be witty.
Yeah, probably.
And snappy.
It was the base for the wit. Yes.
It's the thing that goes through and is able to do a joke that is so esoteric and crazy and then do something like a fart joke or a burp, and everybody in the room can laugh. You're right, more burps than farts. My point is that it is kind of that centerpiece. And I think that when it comes to TV, we should start with the centerpiece, because before The Simpsons, there's good stuff before this. We'll get into that stuff. But most stuff from the mid-'80s to back on television was very, very much comfort food. It was not something that was to be thought of as thinky or higher art or edgy. There wasn't a lot of edgy material on television, because that's not what it was there for.
Right.
And the whole point that Matt Groening brought to it was he wanted to basically say everything else that you're watching is shit. Like, I don't know. I mean, what are your kind of thoughts about The Simpsons, Rachel, before we get into it?
Well, are you talking about Simpsons as a whole, or are we getting into just the first season?
Let's start with Simpsons as a whole, and then we can get into the first season.
So, I mean, like I said before, we grew up with The Simpsons. It came out like a few years before I was born, so I guess that kind of tells you my age. But at the same time, it was on every time we were having dinner. I always remember having The Simpsons on, and it would be like just like that little 20-minute episode that we'd watch. And there always were those ones that you were excited to watch and see, and all the lines that you were like anticipating, especially obviously after you've seen them and wanted to watch the reruns. I don't know. It's just kind of the basis for everything that we say and everything we do and how we like to tell jokes. Really, it has that nice rhythm to it that like leads us to the next point. I would say that the early Simpsons is what I love.
Golden Age.
The golden age of The Simpsons is where I am at. I don't remember what season. I completely just dropped it. But I no longer watch the new Simpsons anymore.
I'll make another bold statement. I mean, I think that it's important. I think the way that there's a few things when we're evaluating whether something has shelf life or not, and I mean we're going to do this season by season, episode by episode. I look at The Simpsons as being at least two different shows. You have The Simpsons, and then The Simpsons.
Yep.
And yes, that was a Simpsons reference, but I don't know when the cutoff is either, and maybe we'll find out as we go through our journey of The Simpsons. But I think it's just something where the humor didn't necessarily change, but it evolved with the times. It wasn't as good, and I know.
No, I hate it now.
The defense.
I hate it now. I will be blatantly honest and say that I do not enjoy the jokes. I do not enjoy the characters. I do not enjoy the plot lines. I think that they should have stopped once their wit ended.
They should have stopped, but they didn't. We will figure out like at what point does The Simpsons seasons and episodes stop having shelf life. I think there are diamonds in the rough, probably. Maybe we can find diamonds in the rough, or people can suggest, let us know what some diamonds in the rough are once we get past Golden Age Simpsons. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, there probably will be like a cutoff point. The other thing about this is what you have in your hand, Rachel, is my copy, my personal copy from the year 2001 of The Simpsons Season 1 on digital video disc.
Yep.
Also known as DVD. It's something you can't get anymore because, as we know, and as our ongoing feud would indicate, it is only available on Disney Plus, or if you can find one of these DVDs lying around. And I would love to have all of these on Blu-ray. I don't think that Disney has any intention of
Oh, absolutely not. They just want you to buy their streaming site because it's more expensive to do that.
In the long run.
In the long run.
But
they force you to do it now.
But I do think I think that we can go, through this with the DVDs and just kind of say, like, if you don't have the DVDs, and there's probably a lot of people out there that don't have the DVDs, especially Season 1, because people seem to poo-poo Season 1 a lot. Matt Groening even says it on the quote that you did at the beginning. I think going through them on Disney Plus is still important, and hopefully they have everything fixed
I was gonna
so
say...
that they don't have the jokes cut off. Season 1 doesn't have as many background jokes as the future seasons. I didn't see as many like they called them sign jokes,
Sure. I didn't
but
see much, yeah.
but still like there were when it first went on Disney Plus, people were complaining that they changed the aspect ratio.
Mm-hmm.
So like you couldn't see the everything that was originally on the screen, and in a lot of instances you were missing jokes because the the
It was
animation
off the
would have it on.
screen, right?
Yeah, it's like when they used to. I remember specifically when they used to syndicate Ghostbusters for cable. That scene when they're in the elevator, you can't see all three of them.
Oh,
I can't remember
seriously?
who gets cut off, but like somebody gets cut off.
Oh my gosh.
For like old TV.
Right.
You don't have that problem anymore. But yeah, I think this is a good spot to start with television because it's so influential to us. When it comes to season 1, do you have any opening remarks before I get in a little bit to what I looked up as the history of how the show got started?
I didn't realize how many good ones were in season 1. And like it's funny because you go back and you listen to it and you hear the old voices and you hear the old sounds and you see the old artwork
A lot of click clunk. I can't
Yes.
do like, but like a
Yes.
lot of that noise anytime anybody's walking. It
Yep.
was very weird.
and you see the old artwork and it's kind of just endearing. I just go, oh, this is where they started, and I really like that. I don't know why. It's just one of those things that it's like, oh, this is where it started, and there's some really good episodes in this, you know. So like, going all the way back, there's like really good episodes.
So and I will say I think the way that we'll do television, and this is our show, so we get to do whatever we want, and we can change this if we want to because
That's right.
Because we are, as we say, the truth, and whatever we want to do, we can do. Also, yeah, there are like 24 at least Simpsons podcasts out there that delve into things like how the animation works, and then some are just like going over the jokes or whatever. So yeah, this is definitely not something the world needs, is another Simpsons podcast. In fact, you can subtitle this Shelf Life, the TV Land, colon, that's right, another Simpsons podcast, as our, the subtitle of our journey through Springfield. We're still going to do it because we love The Simpsons. The Golden Age Simpson. When we say The Simpsons, we mean the Golden Age Simpsons. We love him. I'm wearing, you can't see him. Hang on, Rach, maybe I can get this up so you can see. I have my Homer slippers on.
Yes.
I don't have a ton of Homer and Bart stuff out. Oh, I got my Maggie. There's a Maggie magnet somewhere on the desk, but I think this is as good a spot to start as any. When we are doing episodes on television, we haven't quite figured out how we're going to do this yet because the name of our game here is to get through all of pop culture. And even though Rachel and I have basically decided we'll do this until, for the next 50 years, going through 280 episodes of The Simpsons, because that's what Matt Groening had said on the box. So we know there's 280 good ones.
Yep.
Or 280 that we
That's
can get
what
through.
we're starting.
That was from 2001. So
Right.
like, even if you go to 2000 or whatever. So that would take, let's say roughly, we're doing these like once, I don't know if every 3-4 weeks, carry the one. And at like 12 years. And that's just The Simpsons. So the question is like, how are we going to do this? Well, we don't necessarily know. So I'm going to steal the line. Stay tuned, and you'll figure out exactly how we'll end up doing television episodes. Because we have a lot of TV to do as well as movies, and it'll be interesting to find out. But season 1 of The Simpsons, I will self-admittedly say, when Rachel and I were booking the show, when we were sitting by the pool booking the show, and it's a Vince McMahon, Pat Patterson.
I assumed.
We were sitting by the pool booking the show. I said, what we can do? We can do The Simpsons, and we'll do the first season, and then we'll see, like, we can go episode by episode, and we'll just keep going. And Rachel said, it's a hell of an idea.
Oh,
And,
it's a hell of an idea.
but I thought we would be able to get through it in like, our standard episode length. But to your point, once you watch the episodes again, you're like, oh, there's a lot of stuff to get through.
Yes.
There's
yes,
a lot.
there is.
So I think we probably should start, but because part of our goal here is not just to make sure that you, the listener, who we're doing this for, the people that sit at work every day and have to cram through their work and they have hours on end to spend. We're doing that for you, that you have something to listen to. We're doing this for the people that have to get up at night because their child's woken up, they got to let the dog out, they have to take the dog for a walk, they need something in their ear. We're doing this for the people that have to commute hours on end to get to work in the middle of the pandemic. We're doing this for you, and that's why our episodes are so long. And because we are blowhards is really the reason. But we want to make sure that you get a little bit of background into the shows as well, or the movies as well, even though what we really are evaluating this on, what we're really caring about, what we're really doing this on is purely the art. Whatever it is. That's my disclaimer to say that, like, we're going to do stuff on the show, and we've already done stuff on the show that, like, could be canceled. But it's a part of the process of going through and saying, is this something that... You have to cut all that out. But the point I was trying to say is... the reason that we'll give a little bit of background is so that you get an idea of how it started and where it came from, even though all we're going to really do is evaluate it based on the art that you see in front of you. And that's more or less to give you, a couple of our overall themes, which is everybody is basically doing this. Yeah, you need to hope that somebody's making content for quality and not quantity. And part of the problem now today is that everything is quantity, not quality.
Yep.
Including The Simpsons,
Yep.
Because we just need more shit to put on Disney Plus. Making sure that everyone understands that everyone that is in Hollywood or wherever else we go on the journey through Shelf Life is basically just trying to carny you out of what you find interesting. That being said, let me start with saying where The Simpsons began. Let's form the show, Rachel. How to start forming this show, shall we?
Okay. I'm okay with that. Let's start there.
The show starts. The Simpsons actually begins with James L. Brooks. Not Matt Groening. I'll start with James L. Brooks. James L. Brooks is a prolific producer of television and movies in the 70s and 80s. He's worked on The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Taxi, the movie's Broadcast News, Terms of Endearment, all of this stuff. He's known as being very good at combining sentimentality, actually kind of being more of an elevated, like, smart, and then, like, funny at the same time kind of thing. That's his shtick. He is a Hollywood it guy. He has everything. In the mid-'80s or early '80s, he is developing or working on developing with Tracy Ullman, The Tracy Ullman Show. He's producing it. And the Tracy Ullman was a comedian. She's a British comedian. And the show was basically going to be a skit show. It was going to be a skit show on Fox. I think so. Anyway, I don't have all of that detail, but I think it was going to be on Fox.
Yes, for Fox Broadcasting.
Fox is the new kid on the block when it comes to broadcast television. There were, 5 channels back in the day before we were born, Rachel? So they were trying to come up with stuff that would be different to have on TV other than what ABC, NBC, CBS were broadcasting. So they went with the Tracy Ullman Show. Brooks, knowing that it was going to be a sketch show, decided that instead of it just being, I guess, and I don't remember them ever doing this. Like SNL is still around. Like, I mean, even Mad TV was around in the 90s. Like,
Sure.
I don't remember them ever doing this, but I guess between sketches to get set up for the next sketch, they had things that James L. Brooks refers to as buffers, which were like supposed to just be like these little things to do while they were getting set up for the sketches.
Okay.
Instead, and they used to just be like little 30-second like nothings, like ads almost, or just like watching somebody put a set together. He wanted to make them funny, and he thought, well, if we could do them animated, like, you know, that could like lead to something different on the show. That leads to Matt Groening. Talk a little bit about Matt Groening. Matt Groening is a cartoonist from Portland, Oregon. And he grows up in Oregon. His grandfather or father, his father Homer, was advertiser, but he also did cartooning. So even no matter where we go, we're gonna have something where, hey, you're not just, you can't just be talented. You probably have to know somebody to end up having your name in history.
Sure.
Let's just keep that in mind. But he decides he's going to go to LA and become a cartoonist when he graduates college. So he leaves for LA and he does a lot of like crap jobs. He's like a dishwasher, he's bussing tables, he's doing all this junk. And he gets a job as a clerk at Hollywood Licorice Pizza, which was a record store in LA. That's where he gets employed to do like alternative newspaper stuff. So it's the 70s, I guess. So any schmuck, I think of it as today you'd have a fucking blog or a podcast. Back then you had some alternative newspaper that you were doing nothing. You know, it was going around to your 10 friends or whatever.
Sure.
But he ended up doing some like stuff for this alternative newspaper, and at the same time he decided to come up with this Life in Hell comic. And Life in Hell was just his like little doodles where he basically drew rabbits, and it was just like the depressing life that he was leading in Hollywood, like all of this like crap that he like hated California and hated LA and all this stuff, and it was called Life in Hell. But it was still that Matt Groening positivity where it's like kind of goofy, like over the top goofiness. Eventually he would just stick it in the corner at the Licorice Pizza and sell Life in Hell comics. And that in turn ended up allowing him to, he ended up showing the cartoons to the editor of the paper that he was like doing typesetting for, the alternative paper. The guy liked them, so he put him into the paper. It was called The Reader. And it makes its debut in 1980 into this alternative newspaper. Then he ends up giving Groening his own column. So every week Groening starts writing this column, and he had no idea what to write about, so he would just write about like junk every week into this column. It sounds very Stan Lee-ish. Like it was just kind of like his soapbox. And then eventually he's asked to make a book out of his series of strips in the paper. He had a girlfriend at the time that also worked there that said, we could self-publish these. So in the 80s, they end up making a self-published book of comics, like a trade back of comics. And it sells 22,000 copies, which is a lot.
Yeah, that's
pretty
like
popular.
Quite a bit, yeah.
For the 80s. So it just took off. I've never read a Life in Hell comic. I've seen a couple of them. I think they're probably somewhere around these DVDs where like they show like how to die in LA. I vividly remember like How to Die in LA, where like it's like 9 different comic squares, and it like has like different ways to die in LA, and they're like kind of funny or whatever. But Groening has did Life in Hell comics until 2012. He did them up until then. But that's how he gets started. James Brooks has read the Life in Hell comics, and he likes them. So he calls Matt Groening and says, how would you like to get into animation? Well, it's James L. Brooks. You're not going to say no. So he goes to meet with James L. Brooks, and he realizes while he's waiting in the lobby, according to Groening, this is the story. All of these people have a story, right?
Sure.
But he says, I didn't want to give them Life in Hell, because if whatever this show was, if it doesn't work, if people don't like it, that's the end. He can't do anything else, because the Life in Hell comics is how he's making his living.
Mm-hmm.
And he thinks it'll tank the Life in Hell comics if it doesn't go well. So he decides to quickly sketch out and come up with this family of characters. He comes up with a dad named Homer, names him after his dad. He draws a character named Marge. His mom is named Margaret. He draws two girls, one named Lisa and one named Maggie. He has two little sisters named Lisa and Maggie. And then he draws a boy, and he doesn't want to name it Matt because he thinks that's too obvious, so he names him Bart, an anagram for brat. So Brooks likes the idea, and they go to town, and they decide that they're going to make this show, but they're just little shorts. They're just little, 2 minutes each, episode of the Tracy Ullman Show, and they're really bad. Have you watched any of them?
I have not watched any of those before, no.
So here's one now.
Well, good night, son.
Dad?
Yeah?
What is the mind? Is it just a system of impulses, or is it something tangible?
Relax. What is mind? No matter. What is matter? Never mind.
Thanks, Dad.
Good night, son.
Good night, Lisa.
Good night, Mom.
Sweet dreams.
Thanks, Mom.
Sleep tight.
I will, Mom.
Don't let the bed bugs bite.
Bed bugs?
When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall, and down will come baby cradle and all. Sweet dreams.
We may be the best parents in the world.
Good night, dear.
Good night.
Dad, what were you saying, Dad? I didn't get the thing about the brain and the matter. Could you be more specific?
All right, climb in.
There's nothing to worry about. Now, everyone go to sleep. Good night.
It's pretty terrible. So when we get to the 138th episode spectacular, I think we'll just include Troy McClure going, about joking about how bad
Oh my god,
the
yes.
sketches are.
Hi, I'm Troy McClure.
But because it was something different. It was, I guess, it's hard to judge, but they're just these shittily drawn things. So they hired this animation studio that never really did anything like this before. Somebody at the animation studio said, why don't we make them yellow because it would stand out? That was all the thought that went into that. So now they have all these bright colors and things like that. He did draw all of the hairlines, the hairstyles, to make sure that you could identify them in silhouette, which is still a brilliant move, because if you see those heads anywhere on the planet, you know exactly what that is. They debut in 1987 on the Tracy Ullman Show, and they do some sketches on the Tracy Ullman Show. They go through that a little bit. Now we get into the point where, hey, they're all right. They're doing all right. It's a popular thing. This is where it comes to Fox wanting to have a half an hour show that can be something totally different from the other channels. They've got Married with Children coming up. They want something to go along with it. James L. Brooks negotiates with Fox and Klasky Chupo, which is the animation house, to get The Simpsons as a half an hour television show. And this is extremely risky for Fox. So they said they will pay for it. Fox paid, and they thought, is this going to work? Groening, because or James L. Brooks, because he's James L. Brooks, also got it signed into the contract that they could, meaning Fox, could give notes about the show. They could say what they want to change about the show, what they want in the show. The Simpsons could say, great, and throw them away. They didn't have to... It was completely up to the people working on The Simpsons what the show would be. And that's key, I think, because
of how everything's changed now. Do you think that's not the same? Because I was just thinking that.
that they couldn't get away with it.
Yeah, they don't get a say anymore. They probably have zero say. It's whatever the hell big execs say is funny to put onto the screen at this point.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
their characters aren't characters anymore. It's whatever's funny. Use that character to do this thing because it would be funny.
Well, yeah. The manatee writing that
yes,
that
100%
refers to, yeah, where it's just a manatee rolls a ball from one end of the tank to the other, and then whatever's on the ball, you just make a joke about.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think too, like, there's a lot of pop culture in this golden age of Simpsons, but it's done in a way that it weaves it into the story,
right?
As opposed to just now here's a joke about. I don't know, Nicki Minaj or Cardi B. I was trying to think of Cardi B.
Is it the one that goes,
yeah,
that one? Yeah. Well, I did a Wookiee more so than I did hers, though, didn't I?
Hers is hard to do. You have to, like, have the like a perfect pitch to do it. I'm not even going to try.
Oh, that one.
You're just going to do this for the next hour.
I'm gonna go from Wookiee to Cardi B every time.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
I mean, it's the same idea, yeah. So Fox says, okay, we don't have to do these notes. They start developing the show. So I mentioned James L. Brooks, and he worked on Taxi. He decides, well, you're going to need writers for this show. So he gets the best writer he knows, and that is Sam Simon. Sam Simon is the third executive producer on The Simpsons, and his name is on all of the television screens before we enter the episode at the start of the end credits. Sam Simon was a wonderkind. So to give you an idea, Rach, he was born in 1955. He died in 2015, but he was born in 1955. So he's 32 when he's gonna be the head of the writer's room for The Simpsons.
Nice.
His career is, again, he's born in Los Angeles. He's kind of a privileged kid. His dad's a lawyer and stuff. He wanted to be a writer and an artist since he was a little kid. His parents wanted him to be a lawyer. He was like, no, I don't really want to do that. He seems like the type of guy, and we'll get to this episode. I mean, add this to the list, but do you know that episode of Recess, Rachel, where the kid is better? They all have everyone on Recess has a niche, and then that kid comes along and he ruins it for all of them.
I hate that kid. Like, I even understood the pains of that. It was just, like, annoying, because this kid always is better than everybody. Yes, I understand what you mean.
I think he seems kind of like that kid, because, like, looking at his Wikipedia page, it's like he was on the football team in high school. He was a cartoonist for the school newspaper. Maybe he's just Delilah from... Well, that or he's just Delilah from the faculty.
That too?
So he's
Lisa?
He was named most humorous and most talented in his senior yearbook. And he did not want to attend college, but he did because Stanford said he had good grades and he was good enough at football that they'd give him a scholarship to do it.
Jeez.
So he went to Stanford and quit the football team after one day because he hated it. Which,
Wouldn't that just make it so he has to drop then?
well,
That's like the scholarship
he
type
probably
thing.
could afford it anyway.
Oh, that's true. Rich father.
And then he drew comics for the college newspaper, which is a theme for Simpsons writers because on the other side of the country are all of these Harvard asses that are writing for the National Lampoons that end up being the writers on The Simpsons. So if you want to be one of the top minds in the world, apparently you become a comedy writer for like the Ivy League schools.
I think that's that has something to do with how you want to get your wit heard. You want to get your interesting insight into stuff heard is to make it funny.
You do it through comedy,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Not comedy like Jimmy Kimmel, like Stephen Colbert comedy.
No,
that and James Corden, like they're bad at like. There's no subtlety.
Well, I don't know if they don't
comedy.
Even write their own comedy. Those guys
true.
don't write their own comedy.
Well, we'll get into that.
And if they don't write their own comedy, they're not going to present it well. So the person who wrote it is the one that knows how to present it, and that's the person that would have the wit for it.
There's going to be a couple people in the Simpsons writers' room that wrote for Johnny Carson. But they never met Johnny Carson. So to your point, they don't really know how the joke is supposed to go. So Sam Simon wanted to be in the art classes, but he was denied admission because he was not talented enough.
Well,
and he wrote in the Stanford Alumni magazine, he was told he'd be taking the space of a student who had more talent.
Wow.
So I kind of like learning about Sam Simon a little bit. I guarantee you he loved throwing that back in the face of the school.
No. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
So he graduates to become a sports cartoonist, of all things, for the San Francisco newspaper. Does a little bit of work at Filmation Studios. Does a little bit of work here and there for some different scripts. And the guy he was working for said he should write a script just to see if Hollywood would take it. So he writes a spec script for Taxi, which is the show that James L. Brooks is producing.
Sure.
It becomes a show. It's so good. He becomes a writer on the show. He's so good, he becomes the head writer of the show.
Instant step walking up the ladder.
So that's why James L. Brooks decides, I'm getting Sam Simon. And Sam Simon decides to assemble a team of writers he just sort of fucking finds. So it's kind of, when we get into comic book, particularly the Avengers, so many of the, like, you think of the new Avengers, Rachel, or think of, like, even Guardians of the Galaxy in the comic books. There's always that, like, here's the one guy, and then he just goes, I go find Spider-Man, and then I'm going to go talk to Luke Cage and Jessica Jones, and then I'm going to go talk to Daredevil. And I like to think of it that way. Like, if we were going to write the fake story of how The Simpsons was made, he just goes door to door getting all these Harvard people.
There's even a heist episode in Rick and Morty, and I assume we're going to get to this at one point, and in that one, they go around collecting people, and it's, you son of a bitch, I'm in, and it's just every single one of them. Exactly. It's just the way that works.
We'll probably talk more about the individual writers when we get into each episode, or at least just kind of touch on what those individual writers did, because some of them just exclusively worked on The Simpsons, and some of them are responsible for a lot more in popular culture. He develops the writer's room. They start writing things with the oversight of James L. Brooks and Matt Groening. Groening and Sam Simon don't always get along because Sam Simon... all the writers are writing for Sam Simon. They instantly can tell Sam Simon is the pulse of the show, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, Matt Groening's comedy is a little more positive. So you have like a more cynical writer in Sam Simon who's focused on like character development, and Matt Groening who's a little more of a positive humorist. And I guess, and this is where I guess there's a little bit of a falling out, or a little bit of like headbutts a little bit between Groening and Sam Simon, because Sam Simon apparently once said, do whatever you want, like, you know, if the show doesn't make it, like, we still want it to be good. And he was saying it because for a lot of these writers, this was a big deal to them, and he didn't want them stressed out. He wanted them to just be loose and, like, writing something
and make it enjoyable,
make it fun, do what you think is fun. The problem is that Groening interpreted it as, who gives a shit if this show works or not? We are all going to have jobs because I'm Sam Simon. And Groening thought, well, no, this is kind of it for me. Like, this is either this works or it doesn't.
He's all in, right?
But I guess subsequently, both of them had, like, Sam Simon said, like, no, Groening was, like, instrumental in, like, getting heart into the show along with James L. Brooks, and Matt Groening had said, like, yeah, like, the humor is, like, that Sam Simon style. So, anyway, they all kind of get along at that point. Now, I have talked way too much about the history of The Simpsons, but it is our most important show. So I did want to be able to, like, bring up at least how it comes together. Rachel's going to cut, like, a half an hour out of my
I'm going to
spiel.
try.
But that was all I had when it comes to how this thing got going. Do you have anything else to add, Rachel?
To the history? Not really.
Or anything else you want to get into before we get into Season 1 and Episode 1, Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire? After this word from our sponsor, we'll come back and we will begin our dive into The Simpsons Season 1.
Are you tired of the same old Christmas shows? Well, so are the Simpsons.
Hey, Santa, what's shaking, man?
That's why America's funniest new family is starring in their very own Christmas comedy.
When do we get paid?
They're coming to save the holidays.
Hey, little one, Santa's back. Oh, no!
The Simpsons Christmas Special, Sunday on Fox.
I warned everybody at the end of the Small Soldiers episode I was going to babble on about the fucking Simpsons. So I don't want to hear it.
Calm down.
Yeah, I think we've got to begin with the idea that I popped in that DVD player. I don't know, Rachel. I hadn't watched these episodes in years, so it was nostalgic just to watch the DVD.
Absolutely. Oh, it was nostalgic to put the DVD into the DVD player, and then it pops up, and you can't hit play all for one. The music just repeats over and over and over again if you don't change it at, like, right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they don't make them like they used to.
I can't wait till we get to the season where there's, like, those funny buttons with Krusty the Clown, and it, like, spins, and it's, like, a little ass thing. You have to press it, like,
4 times to be able to watch anything.
It's obnoxious.
I don't know why they did that.
Because they thought it was fun.
Because look at what we can do with this DVD.
Exactly.
So, where do we begin?
Where to begin? Well, I guess I have a thing to say. The first episode wasn't supposed to be Simpsons roasting on an open fire.
Mm-hmm.
They looked at the art on the Some Enchanted Evening episode, and it was so awful that they asked if they could put Simpsons roasting on an open fire first instead, and redo most of the animation in the other episode, the first episode.
Yeah, because it was supposed to debut in, like, September, right? And they had to basically redo it and, like, push the date back.
Exactly. So it's I thought it was weird that they started on a Christmas episode.
It's weird, but at the same time, like, I never knew that.
No.
Like, I probably knew that, but, like, didn't think about it. And it makes sense that you had these shorts, and then it's like, here's, like, the pilot episode is the Christmas episode. It's like, no, this is just, like, our special. We're just doing a special Christmas episode. And then it's like, hey, now it's a show if you liked the Christmas. It made sense. And
right.
It brought the characters in a way that I don't think Enchanted Evening does.
Right. I think this actually does a better job of actually developing the characters right away for you.
Yeah. And I think that's why, and we'll get into it, and we'll rank. I think we could rank these episodes. we could say if any of them individually have shelf life, or if the season as a whole has shelf life. I think this is one of the better episodes of this season for me personally. We'll get into it, but I think it's because they've had a little. This was not the first episode that they made, so I think they've had a little bit of time to figure it out. This is episode number 1 of 695 episodes of The Simpsons.
At this point.
as of this recording. Premiered on December 17th, 1989. Written by Mimi Pond and directed by David Silverman. David Silverman was like the head artist for The Simpsons, so he was like the head director, in quotes. I can't remember if he had like a different title, but this was the first time he was asked to direct something that was a half an hour long. I think he directed like the shorts.
Okay.
Mimi Pond never went on to do like a ton of different stuff, and this is the only episode she ever wrote for The Simpsons.
Wow. I'm kind of surprised.
Yeah, and it's such an important thing. Like, you wrote the first episode of The Simpsons.
Exactly.
I think she's said in interviews in the future that she didn't. This was not like an explanation that was given to her personally, but she heard through the grapevine that Sam Simon didn't want a woman in the writers' room.
Ugh. Of course, we have to deal with that kind of shit back then. Still have to deal with it, but
which is not good.
That's so
not
gross.
A good look.
That's so gross.
I mean, think about how much better. Like, the writers' room is nothing but Harvard guys. Like, they all have similar backgrounds. Having different points of view in that writers' room, how much better the show would have been even then.
Oh yeah, it would have been much better, but they didn't think that way. That's not how life worked back then. No. But and again, another example of these people are not all perfect. A lot of them are all just Hollywood, what you think they are. Yep.
So they're as much as we said Sam Simon is a wonderkind. Apparently, he had a little bit of a problem with women. So,
hey, I'm always gonna say this. I might like the actual product, the art itself. I may not like the person in the background. I may not like the company in the background. I don't think we ever
like the person in the
background. It's true. But I'm just saying, as much as I might love what the actor did, I may not like the actor. I might not, like the director. It's just the way that life kind of works. Some really amazing things can come from really horrible people.
The quote of the day by Rachel. This is the first episode, Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, and it begins with Homer and Marge and Maggie are driving on their way to the pageant.
The voice.
So, we didn't really get into it, but Homer is played by Dan Castellaneta and Marge is played by Julie Kavner, and they were regulars for Tracy Ullman. So Tracy just said, why don't you just use them? They're sure you can just use them. Nancy Cartwright and Yardley Smith, I think, came in. And then Harry Shearer, and you got all, Hank Azaria, a cast of great comedic voice talent.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just kind of came in, but that's how they ended up. And I don't understand. I mean, where Dan Castellaneta got the Homer voice? It's supposed to be Walter Matthau, and it doesn't sound anything like the Homer we know and love today.
Right.
But it gets closer as the
It does, and it's kind of fun
on.
to see how everything develops and changes over time. Because everybody's voice, even, Ralph Wiggum's voice. And his whole,
This is not Ralph.
No, it is not Ralph.
It looks like Ralph, but it is not Ralph Wiggum.
But everything like that, it's just how it works. It's so interesting.
So they are on their way to the pageant. I said the animation not quite there yet. It's pretty crude.
But so endearing.
I mean, I think
it's better than I could do right now.
Well, they've I think even this year they showed it on Christmas, and I think this will obviously, you'll have to cut this part up just when we do our Shelf Life Christmas package of all the Christmas stuff we do. This will be the Simpsons
Shelf Life
part.
Christmas, I like it.
I think that they showed this around Christmas because it is a Christmas. You can show it as a Christmas special.
Mm-hmm.
It still holds up as a Christmas special because you just remember it's from the 80s. It's it's old as hell.
Sure.
So.
Well, it's just like a Christmas story. It's got like that same feeling to it. It's just a Christmas show, a Christmas story that you get to enjoy around that time. And it's the same everything that would still happen nowadays. There's the pageants, and you have to go out to the kids' pageants, and they do all of those things, and then you have to deal with relatives, and you have to deal with like money and gifts and things. It's just how Christmas works.
Well, Al Jean, who is I think the current showrunner, I mean, he was the showrunner for a very, very long time for The Simpsons, and a showrunner is just like the guy that is in charge of the show, basically. You know, is in charge of the writers and in charge of the animation.
Sure.
He said that his idea for the last episode of The Simpsons would be Marge and Homer driving to the Christmas pageant, would be the last scene. So then it all loops around.
Oh, yeah.
In a circle.
Sure.
Which they better get going on if they're going to do that, because have you heard Marge?
No.
In any of the new episodes?
I haven't.
She doesn't sound like Marge anymore, because
Oh.
Julie Kavner is old, so
Sure.
her voice has changed.
Oh, that's like,
And,
that's hurtful. Whenever any character has to like change voice actors, it's hurtful.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
Well, even
we're
the
getting to a
person,
point.
right?
I mean, when we get to Rogue One and that part where Darth Vader's in Rogue One and James Earl
It's
Earl
not
Jones,
James Earl Jones, yeah.
it's like, doesn't that sound like James Earl Jones? Because it sounds like an old man talking. Anyway, so they arrive at the Christmas pageant and, we're going to see the Santa. Our Principal Skinner. Principal Skinner is, here we're going to have a sketch of the Santas from around the world. And you get Ralph. Mm-hmm. I said Proto-Ralph. He does not have the right voice yet.
No.
And, like, I couldn't tell if this was supposed to be a joke where, like, I have eyes in the back of my head. And the audience is, like, shocked. Because, like...
Well, he turns
like
around and
such a
the
Matt Groening
eyes
joke.
just, like, pop out. It's like, what the heck?
But they clearly were like those glasses that
Right.
had like the thing. But I was like, that's such like a Matt Groening joke where it's like he thinks like everyone from the generation before him was like so uptight, because a lot of The Simpsons I think is like humor is a little anachronistic, where it's like almost making fun of people from the 50s and 60s and 70s a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we get Lisa doing some sort of dance. I could not tell you what she was doing.
I thought it was fun.
here.
I wrote down, Lisa goes all out. Like, she really does. And I think that's why everybody looks, like, shocked and I'm, like, amazed, because she learned this whole dance for, like, this,
she's got,
this
like,
Santa
tiki
from around the
torches.
world. And, yeah, she's got, like, the fire sticks and everything. It's insane. But that's Lisa. And you learn her personality, like, immediately from that.
Yeah, you have an idea. She goes all out. She does something super esoteric, but she's like, I'm gonna pay tribute to the,
Right.
whatever. I think it's fake. I don't think it's a real Santa.
It
from around the
probably
world.
isn't, but, it actually could be. You never know.
I was listening to another podcast where they were talking about, they did an interview with Mimi Pond, and she said, like, having to do the research on the Santas from around the world pre-internet was, like, impossible.
Oh, God. Oh, I would imagine.
So I think they made up at least one of them.
No, the one with the eyes in the back of the head, though, I think is a real one.
I think that's real, yeah. I think that is real.
There's some interesting Santas. Just a sidebar. There are some very interesting Santas.
And I also noticed that, like, one of the jokes, because, again, like, it's a lot of, like, these Harvard-educated guys, some of these jokes go over my head because they're still, like, the same, like, type of joke. This is a smart joke, but it goes over your head because they don't, like, give it a beat. It's, like, a lot of weird wordplay, like, Principal Skinner messes up words this whole, like, he's,
Yes.
like... and, like, that's supposed to be, like, a bit, and it's, like, is that... Like, that's a joke, but it's not funny. It's just kind of...
It's just kind of a thing.
But then we get the introduction of Bart, because his class is singing Jingle Bells, and he's not singing Jingle Bells the correct way. He is singing it with some alternative lyrics.
Isn't Bart sweet, Homer? He sings like an angel.
Oh, jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin lays an egg. The Batmobile broke its wheel, the Joker got a...
And I think that this predates the show. I can't imagine, because, I mean, obviously we didn't watch this live, I couldn't walk, and you weren't born, so I can't imagine having watched this as a kid. Of like, one, there's a cartoon on at night, and there's this little bratty kid singing about Batman,
Right.
which the movie just came out, so like you know what Batman is. It just seems like, kind of crazy that they all, like, it takes about 2 minutes for them to get into a pop culture.
Yeah, right into a pop culture reference.
Yeah. But because he's singing it, Skinner like yanks him off the stage, which is also our first Bart getting dragged around by an adult. I also noted a lot of head-on shots in the first season. I think they say this in the commentary or something, but the Simpsons never should be head-on because they look grotesque, because they look so weird. Like, they always
half the time they look
slightly...
like lizards with their eyes.
They should always have slightly kind of like an angle to their head, but a lot of headshots. And then another thing that I noticed, and I figured, I actually thought this is a point, Rachel, where you're not going to enjoy these fades, because there isn't like fades to black, but scenes just kind of end. Like,
they really do.
Like they're just sitting there at the pageant, and then there's like a slight fade, and now they're just suddenly at home.
Yep.
Like, there's no beat, there's no like, and now here's the next part. Like,
Right.
It just goes to the next thing.
Immediate
Which
transition.
I guess is, you could just get away with it back then. It just is, it's kind of jarring, because no television does that now, because like you wouldn't be able to keep anybody's attention. We'll demonstrate, like, let's demonstrate that, like, right now. We're going to just be talking like this, and so they're at home, and then they're going through, but that's what it's like.
It is. It really is. It feels like it just kind of ends mid-sentence.
There's a scene that does end mid-sentence coming up.
There
I think it might be this scene. So Marge is writing a letter. And
I do
think
like
that...
this letter.
I can't believe that this isn't the pilot too, because her writing the letter describes every character.
Exactly. It's so good for that. It's the development. But it also feels like it could be an end to like the season as well.
Oh,
because it like wraps them up, type of thing.
Well, you got so we find out that Snowball 1 died.
Yes.
So replaced by Snowball 2. And the joke is that Snowball 2 is black because Lisa, of course, trying to get over the death of the cat, like, renamed this cat Snowball.
Yep.
And Snowball 1 was white.
Yep.
Because it looks like a snowball. We do see Snowball 1 in some of the flashbacks episodes, which
when they
we'll
were like
to,
babies.
But, yeah. But there is Snowball 2. And then I think you even find out how Snowball 1 died in one of the...
Well, she
Treehouse of
says how.
Horrors. Oh, does she?
An unfortunate car accident or something.
Oh,
It was like
right.
legitimate.
She's run over by a car. Yeah, I was gonna add that. I think in that episode, in the Treehouse of Horror episode, you find out that it was the mayor's brother.
Oh, you find out who did it.
And then we establish that Lisa's smart. She got straight A's. And Bart, well, we love Bart. Like, you immediately know. Maggie, throughout this whole season, but Maggie is loud as hell.
Yes.
She is, I can't do the
sucking noise.
Sweet suck, but
the pacifier.
Noise. And she's falling down constantly.
Oh my god, I love her falling down. The thud. Every time. Thud.
Which I guess is like her joke. Like that's her joke.
That's her bit. Is the pacifier and the thud.
That's the joke. And we hear that there's Grandpa Simpson. Grandpa is around and as feisty as ever. and Marge, stop writing that letter from Homer. Who like we immediately know that he's a jerk. Although he's not jerk ass Homer.
No, he's just a big oaf.
Yeah, no, I'm just a big kid and I just love Christmas so much.
There you go, he describes himself to a T.
So then the kids write their letters to Santa and Lisa wants a pony.
Yep.
Which is a running theme that Lisa wants a pony. Oh, yeah. Does she still want a pony, do you think, in 2020, whatever year we're
No, I bet they're like, oh, she wants like some stupid ass eccentric thing because she's such a feminist woman now. Like, that's kind of how they play her character at this point in time.
A little more... She's more one note now than she was...
Than when she was back then.
30 years ago.
If it was
she was
us,
still,
we would 100% write her in that she would still want a pony.
Because she could still
even as herself, of course she would still want a pony, because she loves ponies.
Right. Are you trying to tell me, Rachel, that you can be a strong feminist woman and still have other interests and still be a little selfish and bratty because you're an 8-year-old kid?
Yes, that's exactly right.
that's not... They can't write 3-dimensional characters.
I don't think they can. And I love that she's that kind of a character that, like, is, like, going at the world and trying to help it and fix it. But she's also an 8-year-old girl.
Yeah, she's the best character. She's the best person in Springfield.
Right.
But she still wants that pony.
She still wants that pony.
And Bart wants a tattoo.
Yep.
Which comes into play later. But, Bart. I can't do a Marge. These are like, the voices are so distinct, I cannot do impressions.
It's hard. It's hard to do them. I could probably just do the which we've done to our mom for 30 years. We'll get to the episode, but one of our favorite things is wear a sweater. I don't think that's a good idea.
Oh God. Yes, all of our Simpsons episodes are just going to be us laughing at the Simpsons. It's a real theme.
We're very meta here. We like to reference other Simpsons episodes while talking about
during the Simpsons. Yes.
And don't make fun of me for saying Simpsons.
Simpsons.
I always say Simpsons wrong. Simpsons.
I have a very particular speech impediment where I cannot say the word Simpson.
So if it comes out as Simpsons, I'm sorry.
I cannot pronounce the T in planetarium. I just throw in when we get to that. We go to South Park eventually.
Oh man, yes.
So Patty and Selma call. Oh, it's your sister, Patty. I love that she will not talk to Homer. We just immediately
to Marge.
Marge, please. It's Marge there. And this is the scene where it does, like, it just fades right in the middle of Patty just being like, I don't know why you married him. Like, it just fades.
Yep.
It's so weird. We get Homer's first fall because he's on the top of the roof and he's plugging in the Christmas lights, and he falls very gently up.
Yes.
Like a year later, he would have fallen and gone, whoa,
right.
or something. He just gently falls off the roof.
They use that sound like a lot. That thud.
The sound mix in this season is so different than every other season, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if they thought like it would be too boring if they didn't have the sound mix up or something.
Maybe.
But it is off the rails at some points. They try to light up the house, and it I don't think there's another Christmas episode where I think Bart calls it craptacular. I think they just look disappointed. And in the meantime, we get the introduction of Ned Flanders and family. And Ned has made this ridiculous, outrageous...
Ho. Oh, it's great.
It's a very elaborate show, and it's great. The family's trying to figure out, they're going to go to the mall to go Christmas shopping, an activity that you definitely couldn't do this year.
Right.
But I don't know if anybody will ever do again. But back in 1989, what you did, kids, is you went to the mall, which was basically the internet, but in human form. And you just walked around the stores.
First, you had the Sears catalog that you'd go through the toy section and circle all the things that you
Oh yeah,
wanted
we
that
did
year.
actually did do that. Yeah.
And then we'd go to the mall.
Yes.
So that we could also buy presents for our parents.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
yeah,
right.
always had the ads and then circle what you want. Put your initial next to it.
Yeah, I think that is how
It is how
ads
she
do
did
that.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wow. And they say we can't be nostalgic, but there it is.
There it
There it
is.
is. But yeah, I mean, so they're planning to go to the mall, and Marge pulls. She tells Homer to turn around. I don't know why, because I guess she knows Homer can't help himself because
Sure.
he's too impulsive. So she tells him turn around, and then she pulls the jar of Christmas money out of her hair.
It's a perfect place to put it.
So one of the interesting little tidbits is that Marge was originally supposed to be revealed to have that head of hair because it was going to be revealed that she had rabbit ears, and she was using the hair to cover up the rabbit ears. This was because of Life in Hell, because Life in Hell is rabbits.
Sure.
They abandoned that really quick.
I'm glad they
but
abandoned that, because that would have been awful.
I kind of wonder if they were going to ever do a joke where, or like a runner where Marge takes stuff out of her hair all the time.
Well, she does, though.
Does she do it multiple times?
I know she does it.
I know she does it at least one other time, and I
in
cannot remember
in
when.
different seasons. I have vaguely remember her always taking something out of her hair every once in a while, or even Maggie's hiding in her hair and stuff. That's the things I remember.
Is Maggie's also wearing the starfish
Yes,
outfit,
yes.
right? That's one of my
I love it.
The Maggie starfish.
I've made one
outfit.
before. For our
A
cousin's
Maggie
baby.
in starfish?
No, I made the starfish a blanket
for
a
somebody
baby.
to wrap their...
Yes, it was the best. I loved it.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so cute to see Maggie in the little starfish outfit.
Very cute.
So they go to the mall, and the joke is that it's they have to park in the very last aisle, aisle ZZ.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the itchy lot.
I was about to say it. They've done this before. We're in the itchy lot.
Remember, we're in the itchy lot. All right, part of
We gotta stop doing this.
Our Simpsons episodes are just one big circle jerk of every other Simpsons episode. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it.
Okay, as long as you're okay with it, then I guess we'll just continue.
I mean, folks at home, if you're not okay with it, please let us know. But we're just gonna say we're gonna do what we want anyway. No, but definitely let us know what your first experience with The Simpsons is. I think that's probably a good takeaway.
I would love that. Yes. What was your first episode? Do you remember your first episode type of thing? I don't, because I was a baby.
I don't. Well, we'll get to it. I can't say I remember my first episode, but I can say that there are VHS tapes at Mom and Dad's house of me taping episodes because I thought it was for kids. And it's season 4 or 5 you can find on VHS at Mom's house.
Oh, that's funny.
So one of those episodes would have been my first. Probably the Stampy episode or something.
Oh, man,
the
Stampy.
We'll get there.
Stay tuned.
We gotta take our time. We have to pace ourselves. So the kids split up. No, Bart visits the tattoo parlor, and you get Dr. Marvin Monroe and the comic book guy had a baby, and it's the tattoo parlor. The guy at the tattoo parlor, this guy. And the name of the tattoo parlor is the Happy Sailor. I don't know if that's a joke.
Oh my god, it is.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
It's Marvin Monroe mixed with
100%. 100%. Maybe they're all related.
I do like the joke where he's like, "Are you 21?" and Bart's like, "I certainly am," and he goes, "Get in the chair."
Right, he doesn't care at all.
We do get a little our first little cutaway of Bart thinking that Marge is gonna love the tattoo. He convinces himself in his head that Marge is gonna think it's a great tattoo.
If I do this one, she's gonna love it.
Yeah, because it says mother on it. Meanwhile, at the nuclear plant, we find Mr. Burns. And it's our introduction to Mr. Burns, who is the overlord and he's a Citizen Kane a take on Citizen Kane, which I guess is a take on William Randolph Hearst, but he's just supposed to be a billionaire tyrant.
Right.
And he announces over the intercom that there are not going to be Christmas bonuses for any of the unskilled workers, which includes Homer. And Homer was depending on the Christmas bonus to be able to get gifts.
Sure.
As you do. I don't know what it is about the 80s and Christmas bonuses, because, like, the Christmas Vacation, that is on the list.
Yes.
As a main event. It's the same plot.
Right.
Where he needs that Christmas bonus. I've never gotten a Christmas bonus in my life.
I have.
Really?
Mm-hmm. We've given out Christmas bonuses.
So maybe it just depends on the place, because, like,
usually sometimes they're more. They're more like they're actually something, or like a gift
like
card,
a thing,
like a
like
thing,
a thing
yeah,
versus money.
Versus
well, I'm thinking like back in the day, like
check of money.
maybe,
like these
yeah,
guys are
because,
getting like a huge percentage of what
they make
make.
it seem like it's like they bake it into their, like, this is part of my salary, so like dependent on the Christmas bonus, and it's like, no, like maybe you'll get something.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So I don't know if that is like a trope or if that was like a real thing back in the day of like the Christmas bonus. You got to get the Christmas bonus.
Right.
Marge finds, where's that Bart getting that tattoo? And she finds him getting the tattoo and is immediately like dragged out of there. But it says, he got to the H, so it says moth.
Yep.
Which, I mean, how much do you want to bet somebody has that tattoo now?
Oh, I bet there's a lot of people with that tattoo.
If you Google that, I bet that comes up. Like, there's hundreds of people that got the moth tattoo.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, there's
another
people.
one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
People have it cross-stitched on other things as well.
So that's iconic, right? Then that the moth tattoo, that's the first iconic shot of The Simpsons. Then
I guess so. I would still think Maggie in the star.
Maggie and the starfish is probably the first one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, so Homer, because he knows he's not getting the Christmas bonus, is like, well, good, we've still got the jar of money. Like, oh, thank God for the jar of money.
Yep.
And but in order to get rid of the tattoo, Bart gets it lasered off, which I don't know if you could do in 1989, but they do it on the show. And
I think you could. I think they did the lasering. The thing is like, you couldn't do it the second you got a tattoo. You have to wait.
It was like in phases.
Yes, and you have to. You only have
to
do like layers. It's literally like lasering off layers of your skin to get rid of the tattoo. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why I don't have tattoos. Well, I'm afraid I don't like needles, and I don't know what what I'll like in 20 years. I'm not gonna put something
Pop
on
culture.
my body. Well,
Batman. Captain America.
I don't know what you're talking about, Rachel. It's not like everything that's in my office right now is something that I think it went Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, you would have a Winnie the Pooh.
With
a honey pot. Yes.
And then it went, Ninja Turtles, X-Men, Simpsons. I don't like any of that stuff.
You could have had a goddamn sleeve of all of this stuff, though. That's how people do it.
Somebody could, but I'm pretty sure when I turned about 8 or 9, I said, okay, that's it. That's what I'm going to like for the rest of my life. And here we are.
Yep.
So.
And then I just ran down that rabbit hole of nerdy.
No, you didn't fucking stop, and that's a problem.
Stop. I still have it.
Folks at home, when we get to her shit, this is all our shit right now, and we'll do some of my shit. When we get to her shit, I don't know what's going on. I will be if you're sick of listening to me talk, wait till we get to fucking Doctor Who.
Yes.
Or like any of your bullshit like Pokemon stuff. I don't know what
Pokemon's
the fuck
not
is
really
going
me.
on. Not you, but yeah. But I don't know what's going on. That's gonna be all Rachel
Dungeons
with
and
me making. Oh Christ on a tricycle! It'll be just me sitting here making Simpsons jokes while Rachel explains everything to you. So anyway, getting back to the Simpsons, we are establishing that the Simpsons, and this is a theme for the first few years of the Simpsons. It changes over time. Is that the Simpsons are making ends meet.
Right.
They're a family. Roseanne might have been on before this, but like they are not it's like Married with Children. It's a family that is not. They're not the Huxtables. They're not a family that doesn't seem like they're just well-to-do.
Right. They don't have like that person that is making a very large salary.
Right. They're on a budget for everything, and I think that was important to Groening and Brooks because it was like
more relatable.
It was relatable. It wasn't sugarcoating the fact that like anything, can't happen in this world. Now cut to 7 or 8 seasons later and Homer, Dad, give me $250. Okay. And just takes it out of his wallet and hands it to Bart. But that's still funny. And if you know the history of the show, that it's almost funnier.
Right.
Because like where it's progressed from.
Exactly.
But a lot of the plot of the first season and a lot of the plot of the first few seasons is the fact that the Simpsons don't have money to do what they need to do. It's more timely now probably than it was in the 80s, at least timely for the current because of the pandemic and everything. Homer goes home and he's ready to tell Marge that the Christmas bonus was taken away, but before he can, Marge oh no, we get the quit it.
I love quit it.
It's just such a good. Lisa and Maggie are touching the bandage where Bart had the surgery, and they're just trying to. I think they're doing it on purpose.
Oh, 100% they're doing it on purpose, and I think it's Maggie's just copying Lisa. So Lisa's poking him to hurt him, and then Maggie does the same thing, and probably thinks it's funny that he keeps saying "ow." Ow, quit it.
Ow, quit it. Ow, quit it. Ow, quit it. Ow, quit it.
Hey, what's with this?
Ow, quit it. Used to be a real boss tattoo.
But Mom had to spend all the Christmas money having it surgically removed.
Homer walks in and he's like, he does it too, because of course he does. And so Homer asks what happened, and they say like, oh, Bart, Marge needed to use the money to get rid of the tattoo.
Right.
And we get that weird Homer, oh, it's true. Like, it's the first, like, mental breakdown.
Yep.
This emotional breakdown. And you get the idea that, like, Homer, I think as the writers in Matt Groening describe him, like, he's a dog. Like, he's very impulsive. He doesn't think about what his emotions are going to mean before he does them. So it's just, oh, no, the jar is empty. And
right.
Christmas is ruined. And then he has to quickly save face to try to say, like, oh, yeah, the Christmas bonus.
Like, well, because I don't think he doesn't want to disappoint his family.
Yeah.
So he doesn't want to tell them that he doesn't get the bonus this year.
And he walks out in shame and sees, like, how much better the Flanderses have than the Simpsons do. And he's not sure what to do. And he's in bed with Marge, and you can tell he's gonna tell her, but he just can't bring himself to do it. So instead he's like, I'll do the Christmas shopping this year. Which, if you're, like, future seasons Marge would have been like, what's going on?
Right, she would have questioned that one wholeheartedly.
Like, there's no way. They're still, she's still innocent, so she doesn't question him and just gives the list to Homer. So Homer goes to the store to do the shopping and gets he gets pads of paper for Lisa. She'll come up with all sorts of things.
Was that for Lisa or for Bart?
I thought he got the pads of paper for Lisa.
What was the
other? No, for Bart.
Yeah.
You're right, for Bart. And then he gets pantyhose for Marge.
Yes.
And he gets a squeaky toy for Maggie.
Yeah, I don't think we know what he buys for Lisa.
Yeah, we don't know what he gets for Lisa. Or he forgot.
Oh boy. Oh, that's even worse.
But he goes to a dollar store to basically do all of the shopping.
Right.
Which don't do your Christmas, folks. Don't do your Christmas shopping at a dollar store. But I will defend dollar stores.
No.
There's some good stuff there.
Well, of course.
There's some good stuff at dollar stores.
Yeah.
It's not all bad. But probably don't get people gifts at dollar stores. Unless it's like a little like...
A little trinket little thing.
Yeah, or like some candy or whatever.
Yeah.
But
a little pick-me-up for somebody.
don't... If you have children, don't get your children gifts at the dollar store.
But they have like some toys and things too.
Yeah, if you're getting like a stocking stuffer...
That's true.
Like,
I don't know.
maybe.
I feel like you're kind of half shaming people that are poor.
No, I'm not. I'm not shaming anyone. I am saying if you need to, there are other ways to go about it than getting your people something from the dollar store.
I suppose so. You could make a cool crafty thing.
You could make a cool crafty thing. Yeah, maybe Rachel, but yeah, maybe you can make a group of something out of the dollar store. All right, fine. Rachel is trying to prevent me from getting canceled. Hashtag Kevin too rich. So as he's walking out of the store, he runs into Ned and Todd. I think it's Todd. I can't tell the difference between Rod and Todd. I don't know if you're supposed to.
Was he tall and like?
No, he was short. He was the one that's Bart's age.
Isn't that Rod?
because the younger one is Bart's age, and then the older one is older than both Bart and Lisa. The wiki says Todd.
Okay,
so I'm gonna say it's Todd.
Okay, so Rod is the tall one and Todd is the short one.
Okay, so it was Todd.
Rod and Todd. I think that's why they say it in that order.
Okay.
Rod and Todd.
Although if you went Todd is tall, but anyway.
That's confusing.
Todd is not tall.
Todd is tiny.
I thought that Flanders was a bit of a dick here. Because he's like, oh, well, we'll just... Because all of the gifts fly everywhere, and he's like, oh, well, here's one, and here's this one, and this one's mine, and this one's mine, and he's like, they're all yours, and it's like...
Sure.
I can't tell if... I don't... I mean, what we end up learning about Flanders is he never would do this, but I feel like Flanders didn't realize
I think he was
showing up.
He was a little naive to the dickishness of what he was saying and doing.
Yeah, because he's
the good guy. He's the busybody goody two shoes type of guy.
But it was mean.
It was a little mean. But I don't think he realized it was mean because I don't think he knew what the Simpsons were going through.
Sure. But as we'll learn later, he only makes $41 more a week than
right.
$14 more than Homer. So
yep.
So Homer's depressed, and we go to Moe's Tavern. And it looks nothing like the Moe's Tavern that we're used to.
Nope, Moe doesn't even look like Moe.
Moe does not look like Moe. He's still ugly as hell, but he doesn't look like Moe. His coloring's off. He's still, what's a banana, Homer?
Yeah,
like, he still has
sounds
the
like him a
voice.
little bit, yeah.
The coloring's off, and I couldn't tell what they were going for with Moe early on, because, and I think I wrote it down a couple of times in my notes, it's almost like Moe is supposed to be, like, the wise bartender. Mm-hmm. Because, like, as opposed to, like, in later seasons where he goes, like, you've been sucking on a beer all night, like I can't stand to see you do like this, and, like, he gives him a candy cane. And I feel like if it was season 2 or on, Moe would have been like, homie, you know you owe me for that candy cane, right? Or like he would make him
a
pay
little
for
bit more of a
cane.
grifter.
Yeah. He seems to care a little bit more now. Barney comes in, and he's dressed in a Santa costume, which I thought it was funny because Homer's like, what's with the getup? And it's like, it's a Santa suit. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
But Barney has signed, and we get our first belch. It's not the belch, but it is a belch from Barney.
Yep.
So not quite there yet. We will document when we find the first belch. I don't know if we find it in this season, actually, but...
I don't think so.
So we get the Barney belch, or a Barney belch, and he says that he's signed up to be a part-time Santa at the mall. And Homer, he tells Homer to sign up. Homer goes because he decides, like, well, this is the way that I can get to get money for the family. This is what I'll do.
Right.
So he goes through a montage of training to be Santa.
Ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho! Ho, ho, ho! Ho, ho, ho! Ho, ho, ho!
What is it now, Simpson?
When do we get paid?
Not a dime till Christmas Eve. Now, from the top.
Ho, ho, ho. Ho, ho, ho.
That's my favorite part, is that they're learning how to go ho, 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 and Homer asks when they're gonna get paid, and he goes, not a dime until Christmas Eve.
Right.
And it's like this like angry German, which I think is supposed to be a joke too. Like this angry German is teaching them how to be Santa, and they all go
Ho, ho, ho. Like, just so sad and depressed little Santas in the room.
Homer gets home late because he's learning how to be Santa, or he's being Santa after work at the plant. So he's getting home late every night, and the one night he comes home and Patty and Selma are there. They almost make it seem like Patty and Selma don't live in Springfield in this episode.
Right.
Because, like,
they're in town right now.
They came to stay for Christmas. Or
Sure.
whatever. So I love that Homer does a shudder when Marge says that her sisters are here. It's such a good shudder. And the weirder part is like Homer or Bart and Lisa run to Homer's like going like Daddy, Daddy. It's like so weird that they call him Daddy, because I don't think they ever call him Daddy.
I think it's that they're desperate. That desperate cry for Daddy as they're running towards him, like, please save us from Aunt Selma and Aunt Patty. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean Aunt Patty and Aunt Selma are
they're stereotypical.
I don't even know
ants.
how to describe them.
They are the stereotypical squeeze your cheeks, rub my feet ants, right?
Yes, we'll get to the episode where they ask Bart to rub their feet, because that's also a wonderful shudder. But then they basically demean Homer because they're like, doesn't seem like Christmas around here. There's not even a tree. And Homer's like, oh yeah, well I'm gonna go get one. He keeps going past all of these cheaper and cheaper trees. So you get some. These are like sign gags. I think these are very.
I would
visual
count
gags.
these as sign gags. Yes.
Yeah, like irregular trees, half price or something like
Right.
that is like. But he ends up like just going on somebody's property and cutting
like
a
a
tree
forest
down.
preserve, and just starts cutting a tree down in the middle of the night,
I
barking
love
dogs
when
and everything.
he brings it back and they're like, well, why is there a birdhouse on it? Like,
It's an ornament.
it's an ornament. This cuts to Homer working as, and I will say this, like, as much as Bart was definitely the sensation in season 1, and we'll probably talk about that as we go through the episodes, this is a very Homer-centric story.
Absolutely.
This is all about Homer. I think Homer's probably the main character now, and, like, over the course of the run of the show, he becomes the main character.
Okay.
Probably. But at the beginning, it was all about Bart. So it is kind of different that, like, this is very Homer. Although Bart comes into play now because it's Christmas Eve at the mall. Homer's working as Santa, and Bart is at the mall with Milhouse and Lewis, who is one of his forgotten friends.
Right.
But we do get to meet Milhouse. So Richard and Lewis were his two forgotten friends, and then Milhouse is the only one that stuck. Milhouse being one of my favorite characters of all time.
Don't bring it up yet.
Well, the only thing I'll say about Milhouse is, I have a picture sitting next to it. Luckily, sitting next to him at Universal Studios. There's a great spot at Universal where you can sit next to Milhouse outside of Quickie Mart.
Yep.
And then Milhouse dares Bart to yank on Homer's beard. So Bart gets in line, and Homer's trying to play it off like he doesn't know him, and then he yanks the beard off. I thought, like, in a future episode, Homer probably would have lost it, but he's
and did like the choking thing that he
yeah. Or something, but he's like, come with me, little boy. And
right.
like,
He's trying to hold his composure at this point.
yeah. And he doesn't even get mad at Bart. He just explains to him that he like has to do it because he didn't get his Christmas bonus.
Right.
And Bart is like,
understanding.
Understanding.
It's crazy. It's kind of weird how like wholesome this little moment is for the two of them.
Yeah. It is very weird how wholesome the moment is. But Bart is like, man, if you're willing to do that for us, like, you must really love us. Like, it's very strange how like, but I guess it's a very early episode, and it's a Christmas episode, so they're all in a good mood. He comes back out to do Santa, and I think this might be our first dough, at least of the series.
Oh, I think
because he
it
goes
is.
ho ho dough, and he
Right.
hits his head on the thing.
Well, I'm Bart Simpson. Who the hell are you?
I'm Jolly Old Saint Nick.
Oh, yeah? We'll just see about that. Homer.
I want a word with you in Santa's workshop, little boy. Cover for me, Alfie.
Now, let's not get mushy, son. I still have a job to do. Hey, little one, Santa's back. Ho, ho, yo! Damn it!
And I guess we'll do a little background of where Doe comes from. Doe is never in the script. It was in the script as Annoyed Grunt.
Oh.
And Dan Castellaneta came up with Doe, which now is in the dictionary. It was a phrase that he shortened it and made it more like a exclamation, but he says it's from like a old Laurel and Hardy, which comedy from like, you know, the 20s and 30s. Sure. There was a villain on that he would go to say damn it, but because it was the 20s 30s he couldn't say damn it, so he'd go oh and like stop himself. So that's where Doe comes from.
Gotcha. That's interesting. I never knew that.
Mm-hmm. But that's a real thing. Doe is obviously a very real part of the English language now. So they go to get his paycheck finally. Now, I don't know what Homer's going to do with this on Christmas Eve at like 7 o'clock at night. Like, what are they just going to cash the check?
Miraculously save Christmas and get everybody the presents that they wanted to.
And like most of the stores are going to be closed.
Exactly.
So I guess maybe he was just going to say like, I've got the money, but we'll go shopping on after Christmas.
I guess.
I don't know. But it turns out that he only gets a check for $13.
Ugh.
They rip him off. They totally screw him with just a list of crap.
Yep.
And $13, like, obviously is not going to do anything. Not even in 1989. Not even in the Wayback Machine.
Right.
Barney's thrilled to have the $13. Wow, 13 big ones!
That was a good impression.
Oh, thank you. And let us never speak of it again. And he's ready to go to the track, which I can't imagine like going to the track on Christmas Eve. But
yeah, that's another weird thing.
That seems like it could be a family tradition. You know, we're gonna go gambling with each other.
It is apparently for that father and son that are there.
Yeah, like I guess like that. We don't open presents until after the third race. But Homer doesn't want to do it because he's like, no, that's like too like shady. I can't do that. And Bart gives the speech about how, well, if he's learned anything from TV, and he lists a bunch of like different Christmas specials. It's like, well, this could be our
miracle
Christmas special. Yeah, this could be our miracle.
Come on, Dad. This can be the miracle that saves the Simpsons Christmas. If TV has taught me anything, it's that miracles always happen to poor kids at Christmas. It happened to Tiny Tim, it happened to Charlie Brown, it happened to the Smurfs, and it's gonna happen to us.
Well, okay, let's go. Who's Tiny Tim?
So Homer decides to go. And Barney tells him, like, he's got a specific dog to bet on named Whirlwind. But he sees that Homer hears that, like, one of the dogs has been replaced with a dog named Santa's Little Helper.
Right.
And Santa's Little Helper is a 99-to-1 shot. But Homer's like, no, it's a sign. We have to. And
yeah, it's one of those. If it was a Christmas special, you should be betting on Santa's Little Helper.
But Bart is like, it's a coincidence. Like,
right.
He's trying to tell Homer, like,
knows.
no. Like, it's not. It's not. And but Bart, like, seeing his dad like desperate is like, okay, Dad, like, go ahead and do it. Like, it's kind of a sweet little like, it's. What do we have to lose?
Right.
In the meantime, the family's trying to wondering where they're at, and they're watching the Happy Little Elves. Grandpa's over. They're watching the Happy Little Elves. This is where you get a Lisa moment, Rach.
Yes.
Because this is when she tells Patty or Selma, I can't remember who, that she does a very intellectual soliloquy about how Homer is like still her father figure, and
exactly.
And she looks up to him.
But she loves the Happy Little Elves. Both sides of Lisa, right there.
Right. Exactly. So Santa's little helper is not good at racing. He comes in last. And Homer goes, "No!" and is like all upset about it. I did like the joke where they're like, "Let's go, Dad," and Homer's like, "Let's wait until our dog finishes." And there's like a 5-second beat of nothing, and then he's like, "All right, let's just go."
Oh,
like
he
it's like
still
how
didn't
bad
finish.
Santa's little helper is. And then here come the tears, Rachel, because they're out in the parking lot looking for
A
winning
ticket.
tickets, which
Yep.
is very pathetic. But Homer can't. He feels like he can't go home. Barney comes by and he's with some woman. I guess he just picked some woman up.
He won a lot of money.
He won a lot of money, and so he leaves. But the owner of Santa's Little Helper is pissed that like he sucks at racing. He just ditches this dog.
It's so sad.
Which I mean, obviously, is a problem.
Yep.
I don't think greyhound racing is a thing anymore, but it shouldn't be if it is. It was.
It may be
always
in some areas, but
I'm sure it is somewhere. But
it's so.
I don't know. I don't know how they treat them. Maybe they're treated well. I can't imagine that they're treated well. I doubt in 1989 that they were treated well.
Right.
And he jumps right into Homer's arms.
Beat it! Scram! Get lost! You came in last for the last time!
Look, Dad, it's Santa's little helper.
And don't come back!
Oh, no, you don't. No, get away from me.
Oh, can we keep him, Dad, please?
But he's a loser. He's pathetic. He's a Simpson.
Yep.
And he's got the puppy face.
Oh, that long
he knows what he's doing.
Face.
and Bart's like, "Can we keep him?" Because he says he's a loser. He's pathetic.
He's a Simpson.
Mm-hmm. Tears.
Yes, it's such a
it's very
perfect
sweet.
line.
And when you know where the Simpsons go, and the fact that they've been around for 32 years or whatever it is at this point, it's like now the family's complete because now you got Santa's Little Helper.
Right. Do you need a second?
I'm gonna need a second. But yeah, so they come home. Homer's ready to like tell the family that like he messed up. But before he admits to it, and then as he's admitting to it, Bart kind of interrupts him, and he's like, "We got a dog."
Yeah.
and I do think it's funny that for the end of time, because The Simpsons will never end, is that now they have this dog with this horrible name. They can't do anything about it.
I think it's great. You know, it's like
it's such a wordy name.
Yeah, Santa's Little Helper, but at the same time, it fits so perfect, and it just sounds like a name now. Santa's Little Helper. That's all it is.
Yeah, you would never have thought Santa's Little Helper should be the name of the dog, but here
No.
it is. So now they have Santa's Little Helper, and Bart's like, well, if he runs away, we'll be able to catch him. So and then it does like a freeze frame like picture of the family, and they're all there.
And they're all happy, but they're all happy, and like even Marge says this is the best Christmas ever because she's like happy that the family feels more complete.
Yeah. Then it ends with them singing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
And Bart, of course, changing.
And Bart and Lisa, are both doing the interjections. So like another one of those things that kids do.
It's just cute.
Doing the superfluous lyrics, and I think we get it. Do we get it off screen? Why you little? I think we get a Why you little.
I think we do
at the end. So our first Why you little? Where I can't remember if you can hear Homer strangling Bart at that point, but
probably not yet.
That horrible act of child abuse became one of our most loved running gags. And that is the end of Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire, the first episode of The Simpsons to appear on network television. Did a Nielsen rate? It was watched by approximately 13.5 million people at the time, which is a huge number. Of course, ratings are so weird to look at now, but what did you think of that one, Rachel?
I love that episode because I think it's very one, it's a Christmas episode, so it just kind of warms you up a little bit watching it, and then two, you kind of get that that Homer, he's an oaf, but he loves his family, and you root for him, and I like that. I like that about the episode, that you're just constantly rooting for Homer throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very nice episode. It's not as jarring. It still has a pace,
right?
Compared to what we're about to talk about. It still has jokes. I think it is kind of your introduction to the family.
Exactly.
I think, and I think that's pretty good. And so I think that puts a cap on Simpsons Roasting on an Open Fire.
Hi, gang. This is Bart Simpson. Now that I am a huge star... Bart! Now that we're all huge stars, the Simpsons are getting their own series. Guys!
That's right. America's funniest new family is getting their own show. And television will never be the same.
Eat my shorts.
Why, you little...
The Simpsons premiering Sunday, January 14th on Fox.
But that means that there was a commercial where Bart says we'll be back in a month, because on January 14th, 1990, we got for the second episode of The Simpsons, season 1, with Bart the Genius. So Rachel, you ready to keep going, to get into Bart the Genius?
We can do that.
So I think welcome back. I think the next few episodes, we're not going to have nearly as much to dive into.
Sadly. It's kind of disappointing.
As we talk about, if the name of the game here is Shelf Life, and the Simpsons Christmas episode might have it, but these next few episodes do not.
Yeah, they kind of just
These
fell.
are not good. January 14th, 1990, Bart the Genius. Written by John Vitti, directed by David Silverman again. John Vitti is someone that will go on to write different Simpsons episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And then he will write some things in Hollywood that is pretty well known. And I think I can... So David Silverman as a director has done pretty much The Simpsons, and he's been their most prolific director. John Vitti did writings in the 80s. He wrote the Alvin and the Chipmunks movies. He wrote Ice Age. He wrote some episodes of The Office. He wrote for The Critic. He wrote for King of the Hill. So some good and some bad from him.
Sure. Some mediocre.
For John Vitti. But he's written some good episodes of The Simpsons. This is probably not one of them. It's fine.
It has its moments.
It's fine.
It's just
not...
kind of blah.
It's very boring. It's so slow. So before the plot happens, though, it's the first opening credits of The Simpsons. And a couple of notes on this. So Groening wanted a whole orchestra to be on the show the entire time because he thought it gave more emotion to the show, which it does. And the entire Golden Age Simpsons uses an orchestra for their score.
Which is beautiful.
Which is good, because I don't think a lot of television shows did that. I think it was a guy at a piano pressing buttons. And but, stay tuned, by the way. But the other thing about it was that you've also got, for the first time, the Danny Elfman theme of The Simpsons. So they apparently gave Fox or whoever gave Danny Elfman a bunch of snippets of like thoughts for what to do, and it being The Simpsons and it being Danny Elfman. You don't tell Danny Elfman this is what the theme's gonna be.
Sure.
Like Danny Elfman, for those of you who don't know, Danny Elfman is one of the best film composers ever. He's done Batman. He does all the Tim Burton stuff. Batman, Beetlejuice. He did the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans. He's done a bunch of different scores, and it's all very kooky scores.
Sure, yeah.
Don't you think it's good? A lot of syncopation. Apparently, Danny Elfman was like, I'm just gonna make my own. And he came up with the theme, and Groening liked it because it had a syncopation that really couldn't be duplicated. He thinks that like do 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 is very hard to. I don't even know what time The Simpsons score is in. It's impossible to figure out what the beat is, and I think that's the part of the beauty of it. Yeah,
it's a little wacky. It kind of I think it's a good representation of the family, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And the world that you're about to get in.
Yeah.
And it introduces you to the world. You got the clouds parting, the Simpsons. It's not quite right.
No, not yet.
It's a little jarring, actually, because it's not quite the font that you want it to be.
Yep.
And the clouds are too real, which apparently was done a little intentionally because you're supposed to be entering the world.
You're entering from
world,
from the real world to the animated world.
They realize you don't need that.
No.
And like a cloud is covering the ONS in Simpsons, so they're the Simps. It's like that's such a heady, stupid joke. But then you get this long opening sequence. I actually like the opening sequence.
It's much longer than it used to be. They actually
What do you mean?
They took out a couple things in later on in
future episodes.
seasons or even episode. Well, no, they left it in for most of it. There's always the Bart writing on the chalkboard.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa's always like in band practice, right?
Yeah.
But we don't usually get her on the bicycle with all her books and things.
That's right.
And
the books. Yeah.
and you don't usually get the people at the bus stop running away. Those are the two things I noticed that I was like, those were taken out. I remember them.
I like the way the books.
I love the books movement, like an accordion.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that you notice.
But this is the first where, and Groening thought that it would be better for the animators because it would be less animation that they'd have to do each episode if they had a long opening credit sequence.
Mm-hmm.
But it was also a chance for them to make more jokes. So this is what The Simpsons is known for. You get a chalkboard gag and you get a couch gag.
Yes.
At the beginning of every episode, and they're different every time. And again, this is one of those things where, like, before our time, that realization that there'd be a different gag was probably pretty
fun.
Yeah, like
just
crazy
like kind of like,
like,
oh, this is neat. They're changing it.
And there aren't many shows that do that now. Like Futurama does a different gag.
They do something on the board every time, or something like moves by.
But that's because it's graining. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's any other show that does like a different gag at the beginning of every episode. I think. Well,
it's
really
not
sure.
a gag, but Game of Thrones builds their world.
Game of Thrones goes to the different world, to where you're going to go that episode. Yeah, that's true.
So there's that one.
That's a comparison. So Simpsons and Game. Well, I mean, what else do you want? For us, it's the Simpsons and Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I'd have to find out if there's any other ones that actually change up the opening sequence. That'd be interesting to find out.
So the chalkboard gag, the first ever chalkboard gag, is "I will not waste chalk." And the couch gag is they all squeeze Bart out of the couch and he pops out and falls.
But the fun thing is with that too is he pops out and then it goes to their TV screen, which it always does to show the credits, and then he falls. And that got me. I actually laughed when that happened because I forgot about it.
The show starts with them, as you said, Rachel, playing Scrabble. So they're playing Scrabble and they need a reason, of course, for them to, like, they couldn't just have them playing Scrabble. They need a reason for them playing Scrabble. They're playing Scrabble because Bart has an IQ test the next day, which is, I don't think I've ever been given an IQ test.
Not by the school.
Folks at home, write into the mailbag. Let us know if you ever had an IQ test at school.
I'd be interested about that one.
The one that comes in season 3 where they do the test to see like what job they should have. The IQ test I haven't seen, but I don't think I had to take a test to see like what job I should have either.
I did that.
You did that?
Yes.
Do you remember what they told you should be? Don't tell the folks at home what you are, but do you remember what it said you should be?
It said I should do something within like the science or field, science or mathematics field.
I don't remember ever taking it. I don't remember if
well, it was
ever...
the stupid part to me was or wait, what was the actual thing? I feel like it said, I don't remember exactly what it was now. I really wish I could though. No, but yeah, it was like a science or math thing, I think, is what they were trying to tell me to do. It was all the way back in like junior high. That's when they had us take it.
I don't remember ever taking one.
I just remember looking at it with friends and being like, oh, what does yours say? And it was kind of like just dorky and stupid.
I have taken the Wonderlic test with the guys, which is
What's that one?
That's the one that they make people that are joining the NFL take.
Oh, yes. I remember talking about this. Oh, this should be an episode.
Maybe there'll be a more appropriate show to talk about taking the Wonderlic test.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have to. Yeah. We'll have to add this to the list.
Add that to the list. Yeah. So they're playing Scrabble, and this is the first time that you get the indication that Maggie is the smartest Simpson. Maggie is smarter than Lisa. She's smarter than everyone. She's made E = MC squared out of her block.
It's subtle though. It's
right.
subtle, and you might have missed it if you weren't really paying attention to what she was stacking.
Yes, and the characters, in my opinion, are different. Like, Lisa is they're both intelligent, but their goals are different. Lisa wants to save the world. She wants to be an activist. She wants to do right. Mm-hmm. Maggie is, like, the world had its chance. You can tell she's going to do whatever. She's going to be kind of selfish with her intelligence.
A little bit, yeah.
She knows more like Homer. She takes after Homer a little bit more.
She's smart, but she's still going to do what she wants to do.
Yeah.
For herself.
Right. I mean, we're making assumptions about a 1-year-old baby, but
you'll see it later on. It's not much of an assumption. Yeah, you see it later
on. She also does, but she also does.
But she gives a shit about everybody.
She does try to save the world later on too.
She does. You're right.
So, a few times actually. So we'll get into that.
She's got a lot of self-preservation.
But we'll talk about that. So. Homer has the word oxidize in front of him, and he's like, "Oh, who could make any word out of these lousy letters?" And it's just oxidize, which is the joke. And the joke is that they're all bad at it. Like, they all have like 2-letter words, and I think this is where I learned what an id is. Because Lisa puts the word id, and like she has to explain it. Bart doesn't want to play anymore, so he puts down Quidgibo.
Quidgibo. K-W-Y-J-I-B-O. 22 points, plus triple word score, plus 50 points for using all my letters. Game's over, I'm out of here.
Wait a minute, you little cheater. You're not going anywhere until you tell me what a Quidgibo is.
Quidgibo. A big, dumb, balding North American ape with no chin.
And a short temper.
I'll show you a big, dumb, balding ape.
Uh-oh, Quidgibo on the loose.
And a short temper. Because apparently Marge was very wise to what Bart was saying.
And this is another one where it just fades to the next scene, where it doesn't really establish anything.
Yes.
They mention on the commentary, because I listened to the commentaries, that Quidgibo was actually the first computer virus that somebody got arrested for giving out was called the Quidgibo virus, or he that's what he called it. So there's your first contribution.
A lot of people will take viruses from like pop culture references. Yeah, it's very funny.
Well, and The Simpsons was like probably one of the first shows that like people on the internet back then were trying to like look at all the stuff that was going on in the background and all that kind of crap.
Sure.
So we go to the school. Bart is, as Martin puts it, defacing school property.
Oh, Martin.
The
weasel.
So it's our introduction to Martin. Martin is a little ass kisser. He's not quite. He's the Victor Von Doom to Lisa's Reed Richards. Like he's just as smart, but he's not quite as smart. He's gonna get there through kissing ass.
He's a kiss ass.
Lisa did win Teacher's Pet.
Which is odd, because I would have given it to Martin, hands down.
But
they're in different age groups, thow.
They are. Martin
so for
is
her
Bart's
class,
age.
She was class kiss ass or whatever.
But Martin tells on Bart, and Skinner's a little more menacing here than he will end up being. Like, Bart fears him a little more.
Right.
So Bart gets in trouble for putting "I am a wiener" in graffiti and a picture of Skinner on a wall,
which becomes a running gag too. You'll see it like randomly in other episodes, or
do you really?
Yes, or in like the video game and stuff too. It shows up.
Oh, I did not realize that. I did not know that. And he spells wiener wrong, but W-I-E-N-E-R could be an ethnic variant. we go into the class, and Martin tries to tell Bart, like, I'm sorry, I was just trying to defend the school against that, defacing school property. And Bart tells him to eat my shorts. So this is the first time we get eat my shorts.
Okay, I noticed, speaking of Bart's vernacular here, okay, a few of the things I noticed was, man, constantly throughout this season.
That's 1990 for you.
Man, oh, jeez. I just was like, okay,
I'm
glad that went a little, but it was the way he said it. Don't have a cow man, right? Is fine. But he would go, don't have a cow man. It was so whiny and nasally.
So you're trying. So Nancy hasn't quite figured out how to do the Bart voice yet?
I think so.
So Mrs. Krabappel comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
And of course the joke being that her name is Crabapple, which is a reference to the Little Rascals because the Little Rascals teacher was Crabapple. But I don't even know if it's not, it's Crabapple, but it's not spelt Crabapple.
Right. Well, it's like K, isn't it?
Yeah, well, but Crabapple was K-R-A-B.
Oh, yeah.
But Crabapple, it's not quite spelt that way, so it's spelt, but I'm gonna say it because I can't. I've been calling her Crandall. But the whole joke here is that Krabappel is the way that her name is pronounced.
Right.
She's done by Marsha Wallace, who passed away several years ago. Very recently, there was a tribute episode for her on, and I think it's supposedly very touching. So
okay.
I have to check that out. She is Bart's teacher, and as you could imagine, she doesn't think much of Bart. But Martin being Martin, reminds
the little wiener he is.
Krabappel that he's supposed to face the window while taking tests so he doesn't cheat.
Okay, but here's my question. Why the heck would that help Bart at all? He's looking now outside, which is very distracting. So, and he could easily just turn left and copy off of Martin. Like, it's right there.
Well, because Matt Groening being Matt Groening, I'm sure this was something
it's probably something that teachers do.
60s.
I just think it's stupid.
And it doesn't do any service to the kid that is a troublemaker, because to your point, it's just going to be more distracting, so that kid's never going to catch up.
No.
Learn how to do what teachers did when we were kids. You take 2 folders.
Yep.
Or a textbook, and you would
make your own little area. Yeah.
I don't know I'm sure kids in our grades would put like cheat sheets in the folders then.
No, you'd have to get, for my class, you'd have to either get them checked. They have to be empty folders. Or, and when the teachers walk around anyways, so they would notice if something was in your folder.
That was always like a first test to see if I could get like a folder to balance, because they wouldn't balance very well.
Well, you got the really flimsy ones, and it's just a big pain.
Yeah, because they were cheap. They're cheap-ass folders for a 7-year-old or whatever.
Right.
But Bart is trying to take this IQ test, and you get like a dream sequence of him taking this IQ test, which I guess is based off of something David Silverman worked on, and it's like got all these very interesting visuals and like this dream sequence.
Which is kind of like nice. It's kind of fun,
Yeah, it's different compared to what it usually would be. But then Bart goes crazy and like kind of falls over.
Because Martin's the
train
conductor.
Martin's the train conductor.
Jackass.
We should mention that Martin is played by Russie Taylor. Russie Taylor just passed away too. This is why the show should have ended, because
they're losing their voices.
And Russie Taylor was the voice of Minnie Mouse, along with being the voice of Martin.
I forgot about that.
Yep. So,
but then think about how old she was.
Well, right. But she played Martin every time there was a Martin until she died. I don't know if they use Martin or not anymore, but I like Martin as a character. He's a good character.
He's a good character, but he's a little wiener.
Damn wiener kids are listening. So Martin gets done early. He goes outside to read under a tree.
To be a wiener. He is doing this on purpose. He's being a little kiss ass again to get outside so he can be mean to Bart.
Do you think so?
Absolutely. He went right to the tree that is right in Bart's, like, view, and then sticks his tongue out.
So Bart, in turn, starts sticking his tongue out, and Mrs. Krabappel is like, "Oh, are those dirty, nasty dogs back here?" Which, like, I don't know what... I assumed this was, like, Bart made something up about something that was going on outside the window to do this before.
Like, two dogs are humping outside or something.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of the joke about... Remember when you said Snagglepuss was outside? There are so many better Simpsons jokes coming up in the future years.
I said Snagglepuss?
No,
oh, no.
Ralph.
Oh, Ralph says... I remember that now. I was
that.
like, what are you talking about? Oh my god.
But Bart takes the opportunity to switch tests with Martin, put his name on Martin's test, put Martin's name on his test, and this ends up causing the school psychologist to call in... Skinner calls in Homer and Marge to talk about the fact that, like, Bart vandalized the school. But the school psychiatrist who comes in, Dr. Pryor, who I don't think ever shows up again after season 1, unless it's a flashback. I think he's in some flashbacks.
I thought there's a school counselor at some point, but I don't know if it's the same one.
I think I can't remember.
I don't remember, though.
And he is... Prior because he pries into you, according to the commentary.
They're being very...
What a... Yeah. That's
okay.
A stupid joke. He reveals that Bart now has Homer thinks it's an IQ of 912. But it turns out that he's got it upside down. It's 216. Which, mind you, is still very high. So Homer is super excited because they have a genius son. And he wants to know, like, how does this happen? And he's like, well, sometimes it's heredity or environment, and sometimes it's a mystery. Skinner immediately knows that he's not a genius, and he's like, I think we should retest him. Mm-hmm. And Pryor's like, well, I think we should send him to a better school. And Skinner, wanting to get rid of Bart, is like, great. Perfect. Exactly what I wanted. So it ends up being that Bart is going to get to go to this new school where there's a bunch of other geniuses. So the next, I don't know when this, like, how long it takes him to go to this new school. And it's one of those things where it's like, this school is still around, so it must cost money to go to. So, like, this is like one of those little bit of inconsistency things where it's like, is the school paying for Bart to go? Did he get a scholarship to go? How come Martin doesn't go there?
Yeah, why doesn't Martin just go there anyways? Well, right now, his IQ is probably incredibly low.
I guess there's like a cut. The script is on that DVD, the original script, and then there's apparently a scene where Martin gets called in because he's going to be held back because he's like an idiot.
Gotcha.
You have to kind of headcanon it to, like, maybe they think, like, anytime they get a Springfield Elementary student that wants to go to this school now, it's like a ripoff. Like no. We know what you're going to send. Or that school blows up at the end of this episode. Spoiler alert. So maybe that school isn't around anymore. I don't know.
I don't know how much of a spoiler that is, but that's okay.
So we get... they're all wearing ties. Bart did not want to wear a tie. But Homer's dropping him off. Homer's being very sweet.
This is cute. This is cute to me.
Well, it's cute,
Homer's
but
just
it also...
like a nice guy.
Yeah, but it also is like Homer should be... If
nice
Homer
all
was
the time.
better to his son, like, just because he's a genius now.
True.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a little bit of that. Like, Homer
You're
doesn't
only doing
realize,
it now
like,
because he's a genius.
Well, and that's why Bart continues to precipitate the act, too, is like, because him and Homer are getting along, he doesn't want to reveal that he's not a genius.
Right.
And Lisa calls him out on it. She's like, you're not a genius.
Yeah, like immediately.
I know you're not a genius. Homer gives Bart his tie because all the rest of the kids are wearing ties. And it's one of these schools, I looked, it's in the wiki, it says it's a Sudbury method of education, which is the students take complete responsibility and do whatever they want to do every day. I've
heard of that, but I just...
Like, they have to be the geekiest kids.
They have to be extraordinarily motivated to learn something. Like that. Or there's, because otherwise I could just see a kid who, yes, they're a genius and they're strongly motivated, but they're not motivated to actually pursue that genius. And then why would this school be helping them?
Right. Or focused enough to keep at it.
Yes.
Like, as a kid, to keep doing it.
Right.
But I'm sure they're out there. I just don't know.
Plus, I feel like they're not really going to find the stuff that they like if they're at a school where it's like, well, you pick it out. It's like, well, I don't even know what to pick out to figure out if I like it. You know, it's one of those double-edged swords type of thing. You think it's kind of helpful for them because they're being allowed to pursue and be creative and everything, but at the same time, they don't know where to start.
Yeah, Bart is introduced to the teacher, and the teacher here is Ms. Milan, which is melon. So it's supposed to be like how Krabappel, yeah. And it's also Marshall Wallace doing the voice, but this is supposed to be like the nice teacher where Krabappel's like, you know, the meaner teacher. Mm-hmm. And she walks him around and shows him the different areas. There's out of nowhere, there's a shot at comic books. Where, like, a comic book...
I know! Well, I think this, now talking about, like, the history and everything, you know, it's like, you're not gonna get anywhere if you're a comic book writer. And
right.
And
yeah,
then,
it's a back rating being like, no, like, here we are.
Right.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm going, well, why can't he read this comic book? If you told him that he's open and gets to read whatever he wants and he gets to pursue whatever he wants, why can't he read a comic book? It annoys me.
Well, so your headcanon commentary on this is that it's a little bit of a take on, like, intellectualism being a little, you know, maybe people... narrow-mindedness. Mm-hmm. Maybe saying this is art, but this isn't. And,
exactly, yeah. Yes. And this is genius, but this isn't. This is where, like, you should be pursuing it. This is not. And I disagree.
Rachel with a strong disagree. I disagree. I don't know if that sounds
Hear ye.
Bart, they're doing, like, a debate. An open debate, and they're doing an open debate about what free will means.
Yep. I hate this school. It just, like, annoyed me to watch this. I don't know why. They're very pretentious.
Yeah, I mean, I am not anti-intellectual. We need more intellectualism. We need more smart stuff, especially nowadays, because there's an anti-intellectual movement that's asinine in the world.
Agreed.
But there is definitely a way to do it that is not pretentious, and you're right. Like, there's a hint of we're better. Well, the kids bully Bart.
100% the kids are bullies and think that they're better than everybody because they're geniuses. And that's
because
another problem with this damn school. Is because it's forcing them to be like, oh, but I go to this school and I'm better than you. Shut up.
Right. There's no humility. Humility is needed here.
Yes.
Is the thing, yes. Which the Simpsons do tackle. Like, how many times does Lisa get beaten out because somebody doesn't have humility? And she does.
Exactly.
But they're talking about paradoxes, and this is where you wrote this one down, right?
I did.
And now we can continue our debate from yesterday. When we left off, Calvin and Tanya were arguing that free will is an illusion.
If you ask me, humankind has freedom, but a freedom fraught with paradoxes. Freud shows how childhood shapes our subconscious mind, but this helps us to think for ourselves.
Very good, Ian. Does anyone else have an example of a paradox?
Without law and order, man has no freedom.
If you want peace, you must prepare for war.
Well, it seems the smartest child in the class is also the quietest. Bart, what other paradoxes affect our lives?
Well, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.
Well, I guess that would be a paradox, too. Thank you, Bart.
Bart's not wrong. It's a paradox.
Yeah.
So he is smart enough to figure out what a paradox is based on the conversation,
right,
to be able to give a response.
This is true. And, like, the kids were all trying to be very existential with their stuff, and then Bart comes in.
Well, they're real paradoxes.
Yeah, of course they're real paradoxes, but I'm just saying it's just the way that I don't know. Everything was annoying me in this episode. But then Bart comes in, and I kind of like that he says this: "You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't."
Right, which would become one of his, like, semi catchphrases at the time, I guess.
Yeah.
And Milan has to be like, well, that's sort of a paradox, like. Like, and just kind of like
if you do it,
doesn't
then
think about it. So much of this episode too is because signs of genius are being like you're bored with everyday structure and this and that and the other, but it also could just be that you're not.
Well, you're not being challenged. You're not getting the right, like...
But I love that every time there's a chance for someone to call Bart out on not being a genius, they just chalk it up to, it's just another sign of him being a genius.
Right.
Like they want to believe it so much that they don't look at the evidence that it's just not there.
Right.
Another message for our times, probably. But anyway, so then you get the bullying him and stuff, and Bart's not having a great time at school. He tells Homer that the palindrome for so is os, and Homer thinks it's like amazing that he can do that.
Right. Which I still didn't understand. So she writes that whatever the heck that kid was like saying on the board, but the exact thing that he was saying, it wasn't even like what he meant to say, so I still don't know what that kid was saying.
Well, a good one is like...
I haven't paused it to check, but I was just like, I still don't know what he's saying.
It should... My problem with the one he says is that it is the same forwards and backwards, but it's not like a real phrase.
No.
Like, a voter rises, or, like something that actually, like, I can't remember the exact... I'm not good with palindromes, but like an actual palindrome that is a phrase would be interesting. Like, his was just
gobbledygook, and I was like confused. Like maybe I'm just not smart enough. Maybe that's what they're trying to tell me.
Maybe not, Rachel. Maybe you were trying to raise these kids. You don't really think about it. I was trying to get that in every episode.
I know you are.
This is where you get RDRR too.
Hardy har har.
And this weird animation on the hardy har har. That's a Futurama gag too, to be like, here's like a math problem on the board and like wait for somebody to solve it.
Well, they do.
That happens all the time.
They do it all the time. Yes, and I love that. That's clever though.
Yeah, they do it. They try to do it in a clever way.
This one just seemed kind of like a, if you don't get it, you don't get it, and it's just like, oh boy, okay.
And Homer and Bart are bonding. They're playing catch, and the one night Marge gets tickets to go to the opera because they're trying to nurture Bart's genius. So
right.
Marge is like, well, we should go to the opera.
Which only Lisa could come up with the word nurture.
That's right. Yeah, I'm glad I used the word nurture. Because I did not mean to do that.
Yep.
And they go see Carmen, and this scene goes on way too long.
It does.
This is where this whole episode drags. Like, we're probably 20 minutes into the episode already, and we've only been talking for 30, which probably tells you that it's not a good episode. But, like, it drags on, and they basically just do Carmen. But at some point, Bart and Homer get bored and start to goof off. I even wrote, this is a slow episode, and Lisa joins in with them.
She does. She laughs
because she has fun with the two of them.
Which, why not? She's the little sister. She's going to want to do whatever her big brother's doing.
And Marge gets annoyed. Where'd you get $5? I want $5. And Marge gets upset with them, and Homer's like, we can't leave or Bart says we can't leave until the fat lady sings, and Homer does do the, is that one fat enough for you, boy? And there's this fat lady singing. So they leave.
Classic opera.
And the next day, Bart is mixing chemicals, and Ms. Milan tells him, like,
well, you do know
what happens when you do this, right? And he's like, of course. And she does it, and the school blows up.
Right.
And Bart gets stained green, which I don't know what he was doing.
Yeah, I'd be curious then.
But it's interesting. So he gets sent back to the psychologist, and Bart tries to trick him at first to be like, I just want to go back to my old school. I'll pretend, observe them.
Right. I just want to blend in like a Jane Goodall type thing. I'm just going to blend in as like a normal kid.
So he leaves the room, and Bart can't even come up with a proposal because he tells him oh, write your proposal as an experiment, and he can't do it because he's an idiot.
My Confession by Bart Simpson. I am a regular dumb kid, period. I cheated on my intelligence test, period.
Ah, finished already. Principal Skinner will be very interested to see. Yeah. You know, you misspelled confession.
So he writes a confession that he's not really a genius and he cheated on the test. And I love that Pryor walks back in and he starts reading it and he goes, "You misspelled confession." Like, it's like eventually
he's
they were
connecting the
gonna find
dots.
this out. Yeah, like, oh, this was all bad. Yeah. So it's the end of the show and needs to tell Homer, and Homer's little turpentine will get that green off, and he's giving Bart a bath in the backyard, which is weird. Which
I
guess
think it's so you don't stain the tub. Yeah.
But Bart confesses to Homer, and you get Homer chasing him to the house and banging on his door, presumably to choke him again.
Right.
To end the episode. And that's it. That's all that the Bart the Genius is.
Mm-hmm. It felt like a short, but it was too long.
Yes, it felt like a short that went on too long. That's a good way to put it, Rach. I said it was fine. It shows that Bart will try to get away with anything at school. It showed some of Homer's character, but it
showed how
nothing.
The girls are geniuses.
Right, but it was nothing great.
No.
Anything else on Bart the Genius?
I'm Guajibo. That's the only thing that I had.
Guajibo.
Out of work, sober? You sat around the house all day, but now it's Duff time. Duff, the beer that makes the days fly by.
Beer. Now there's a temporary solution.
These all feel... So here's my thing. Here's my whole take on this season. So, yes, I said there seems to be like some really good ones in it, but quite a few of them just kind of feel like short snippets of The Simpsons. The Simpsons. Not like a full episode, which is weird because they're still drawn out to be a full episode, but they do feel like just quick snippets of what's happening, you know?
Well, speaking of shorts that get drawn out to a full-length episode, on January 21st, 1990, we get the third episode of The Simpsons, Homer's Odyssey, which was written by Jay Kogan and Wallace Wolodarski, who will show up again very much so on The Simpsons, and it was directed by Wes Archer. I listened to the commentary on this, and this was Wallace and Jay, I should call them Kogan and Wolodarski.
Mm-hmm.
They're a writing team. This was like their first ever thing for television, because they wrote jokes for Carson and did stuff like that, I think. I might be getting them confused with two of the other writers, but so they were... maybe that was Al Jean and Mike Reese. I can't remember. But anyway, they wrote this episode. They said this was the first script that was ever finished for The Simpsons. And it was done while the shorts were being done still. They didn't know Mr. Burns was going to be named Mr. Burns.
Mm.
They claimed that they didn't even know Marge was Marge.
Okay.
They had Mr. Burns as Mr. Meanie in the script. The script might be on that DVD, I don't know. But I think this all reflects that because this episode is rough. I'm sure it's still head and shoulders above the shit that you get post 2002, but it's kind of rough to watch. It is definitely, and it's called Homer's Odyssey. It's an episode about Homer. The first third of it is the Bart show. It's all about Bart. But there are a lot of firsts in this episode, so we can point them out as we go. So the episode starts. Oh, I should mention the gags, because we should do that since they do them differently. So the chalk gag for this one is, "I will not skateboard in the halls."
Right.
Nothing funny there.
No,
and then
just kind of like pointing out that he skateboards, which we see in the opening sequence anyways.
And the couch gag is the family goes on the couch and the couch collapses.
Yep.
So it like falls apart. So this episode starts with Bart's class is going on a field trip.
Yes.
He is... I think that there's like a couple of good lines here where Mrs. Krabappel is like, we don't want to happen whatever happened on the trip to the state
yes.
prison. And Bart has to go, but Mrs. Krabappel, I swear I didn't unlock that door. Like implying that he caused like a prison riot.
Right.
He's the ultimate. I think at this point already, Bart fever had swept the nation.
Sure.
Everyone loved Bart, which like based on what we've already seen, like it's so weird to think about, but
he was the practical joker. He was the class clown.
Yeah, he's the real Dennis the Menace.
Right.
Yeah, it was just something that we apparently came along at the right time. We get Bart needing to find a seat, and the only place to sit down is next to Wendell. Wendell not used very much.
No, but only used in these specific, like, instances.
Yeah, so he's pale, and I think he's pale because he's, like, a very sickly kid.
He's gotta be.
But we
Makes
find
me
out
uncomfortable.
he gets sick on every bus ride. He gets car sick.
Right.
I guess. Which, like, I think there were kids that would get... Because, like, the buses, I remember as a kid, always had terrible fumes because it was the 90s.
Smell.
And
mixed with that gross, like plastically leather smell.
Yeah, that horrible leather. They would clean it with bleach, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not so... And then some kids get motion sickness anyway, so like I wouldn't be surprised if like this was a recurring thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember kids getting sick on the bus, but I
do.
remember people like feeling sick on the bus.
We had kids getting sick, and we had a kid who like peed his pants and it like rolled down the damn aisle. It was disgusting.
Oh God.
Yep.
That's horrible.
Yeah, I did not have good experiences. I hated the bus, and I never wanted to get on one ever again.
I did like Krabappel tells the story about not sticking your arm out of the window because you'll get it chopped off. And Bart goes like, and I was that boy. Like even like kind of dejected that he has to sit next to Wendell. He still has to be the star
goofy.
of the show.
Right.
So then we get... I'm going through my notes trying to make sure we don't miss a lot because I feel like there's not a lot of stuff
there
to
isn't.
talk about. And I'm like, well, am I missing anything?
I think that's probably about it. Like, so they get there on the...
Oh, well, no.
Oh, no. So Mrs. Krabappel yells at Bart and says that if she hears another word out of him or whatever, if he does anything, she's going to make him sing in front of the entire class.
Right, because Bart thinks that Mrs. Krabappel that Wendell's gonna puke, and he's trying to warn her, and she's like, it's Bart, so she doesn't pay any attention to it. Yeah. Which, the punishment of having to sing in front of the entire class is exactly something that Bart would want to do.
He would do it anyways.
But then we get the introduction of Sherry and Terry, who are the troublemaker twins that act like they're goody two-shoes, but they're
the
like...
twins.
The Tibble twins?
That's what I just said, yes.
They're not as bad. Okay. Folks at home, add this to the list, because Arthur's getting added to this list. I can't wait to do our Arthur episodes.
Oh, it'll be great.
The Tibble twins might be my most loathed characters. In the pantheon of culture.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm not gonna put them up there with the Tibble twins. But they are trouble. They're troublemakers that like they're okay.
They're the troublemakers that are the
this...
We're wonderful and perfect, but we do shit in the background and we're horrible little girls.
Well, here's an I think we can do a parallel with this anecdotal story of when you and Mom took one of the dogs to training.
Oh yes.
And one of the dogs, the head dog, the dog that was supposed to be the role model.
Dog.
Yeah.
Xantu. That was the name of the dog. He was very sweet, very soft, loved him. However, while we were learning to do something and then she was having us actually have the dogs like sit or stay or whatever, she would turn her back and Xantu would walk up to one of the other dogs and either boop him with his nose or bat at him and make it like bark or something, and then he would run back and sit down like, I was being good.
Yeah. That's Sherry and Terry.
Yep.
Yeah. He was an instigator.
Total instigator. Little troublemaker.
I think it's hilarious.
It was very cute, though. I kind of loved it.
But yes, on the way, Sherry and Terry are like, we're going to make you sing Bart Simpson. And so they decide to kiss him on the cheek, so Bart shouts.
Our question, though, are they supposed to look like the Shining girls?
I don't know if they're supposed... They don't look... I don't think they look like the Shining
they're kind of
girls,
creepy looking to me.
Well, they're creepy because they're twins.
And they're purple.
Because twins are creepy. Yeah, and they have purple hair.
Their skin is like purpley.
Well, and everything is like off-model.
Oh.
Like, all the colors are so bizarre in this season anyway.
It's true.
So, like, if they were made in season 2, they probably wouldn't have had purple hair.
Yeah.
But they do.
Because now they have to.
So, like, yeah, now they're just stuck with the purple hair. But yeah, they're very odd looking. Yeah, so maybe they're supposed to just be like... I mean, 11 seasons in, we get
kind of
twins.
Addams
Which one's the
Family-ish.
evil one?
Yeah. They look Addams Family-ish to me. Where
they do.
They kind of just look creepy, like they'd live in a haunted house. I don't know.
well, we end up learning that their dad is Homer's boss, which never comes back ever again. So,
but yeah, Bart does end up singing.
Bart is forced to sing John Henry Was a Steel Driving Man, which he changes the lyrics to Bart Simpson Was a Steel Driving Man.
Right.
Which I don't know if anybody knows what this song is anymore.
Couldn't tell you.
It's, I guess, something that we can mention. I will say, for those of you that want even more in-depth episodes of The Simpsons than us, I will recommend... I'll give a shout-out to a podcast, the Talking Simpsons podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel, if you haven't checked out them, they have like 2-hour-long episodes per episode. They're very much like us, where the longer the better. They'll go like joke by joke, and they'll talk about like where that joke came from.
Sure.
Which I don't know how they did that with season 1, because we can't do it with season 1 either. But I'm sure that they went into John Henry Was a Steel Driving Man, because like John Henry is it's a folk hero about he's a black guy from... I don't think he was supposed to be like a slave, but like it's supposed to be like the mid 1800s.
No, that he might have been.
He's supposed to be like this like legend who just drove steel until he collapses, right? Like, isn't that kind of the legend? Like, he just doesn't stop. I think there's like a Walt Disney... There's like a Walt Disney something.
A man tasked with hammering a steel drill into rock to make holes for explosives to blast the rock in constructing a railroad tunnel.
Is that the same thing as from Django Unchained, when you take big rocks and you make them into little rocks?
Oh, maybe.
Like, because where Django's like punishment at the end is going to be...
was going to be helping to build the railroads.
Yeah.
Oh, it could be then.
Yeah, there is a Disney short called John Henry. I know I've seen it as a kid. If you want to know a little bit here on the wiki, our good friend Dwayne Johnson is going to play John Henry in a Netflix original.
Oh, I didn't know that. Really?
I mean, who knows if this will actually come to fruition or not. It just says that, yeah, in October 2018, Dwayne Johnson will portray John Henry.
Oh, how interesting.
Which makes sense. I don't know if he has the range to do it, but we'll find out.
Yeah.
But there are songs about John Henry Was a Steel Driving Man.
Interesting.
That's where Bart's taking this from. But we only dwell on this one because there's no one that is even our age that will probably remember that.
Probably not.
Like, if you remember it because Bart was singing it
right
on a bus. But yeah, I think it's supposed to just be like a railroad worker that kills himself from exhaustion because he won't stop.
Because
okay. I think that's or like he gets in a bet.
When the agent for the steam drill company brought the drill here, John Henry wanted to drive against it. He took a lot of pride in his work, and he hated to see a machine take the work of men like him. Well, they decided to hold a test to get an idea of how practical the steam drill was.
And he does more than the machine.
Won.
Yep.
He wouldn't rest. He overdid it.
And
he took sick and died. Yep.
Right. Also, the modern parable of that is when Dwight takes on the machine in an episode of The Office, which add that to the list. We'll get to it.
That one's gonna be tough.
No, it's your classic machine versus man parable.
It's true. It is. Yes. Well, it's anybody who has to go against like a computer or a machine.
Right. They're replacing everything with computers now. So anyway, back to the Simpsons again. Now that we gave a little advertisement and talked about John Henry. So he sings the song, and on what they finally get to the nuclear power plant, which, like, how far away is it that all this happened? But
it's a bus ride.
Bart's proud because Wendell actually made it, so he slaps him on the back to say, "Hey, Wendell, you made it!" And he pukes all over the bus. And I did like all the kids like jumping out the windows and stuff to get away.
Right? Yeah, I would be. That'd be me.
So we get to.
But you gotta remember, like, I think it's more so from, like, the kid's perspective. A bus ride takes way longer from a kid's perspective than it would.
Oh, yeah.
Now. I always thought it took
like, even
so
thinking about how long I thought it took to get from school to home, and how far away school actually was from home, it was, like, nothing.
Right.
But I thought it was, like, the longest time.
It was awful.
So then we get the introduction. Well, not the introduction, but in production order, this would have been the first time, and that's why he's black. And that's Waylon Smithers.
Yes.
So you get Waylon Smithers, who either is black or has a
tan
scholar
skin.
And listening to the commentary, he was originally supposed to be black.
That's interesting.
Think the idea was that they were trying to make a diverse Springfield.
Okay.
So he was going to be black. And at some point, he started coming back yellow because Korean animators don't always understand, and that's why you get a lot of weird colors because of the animation.
Okay.
Korea animators didn't necessarily know how to interpret. Like, why would he be a different color?
Sure.
Like, they didn't understand that. So
that's interesting. Okay.
But then the other thing was Sam Simon did want to make him gay, but subtle. So from the beginning, Sam Simon's idea was like, he's going to be gay, but don't make it like over the top gay.
Right.
Like make him a normal person that happens to be gay, which they do make a lot of gay jokes at his expense.
Right.
But he's also a very three-dimensional character.
He is.
He's obsessed with burns.
Yeah, and he's not like hiding his gayness either.
He's in the closet.
Kind of, but I think it's more so because other people say something and he's just like, well, whatever, I'll just go with whatever you're saying, even though I'm not, like, going for women.
Yeah. Well, I wonder how progressive it was at the time that he was...
That's hard to gauge, for us at least, because we were little.
Hard for us to gauge. Yeah. But yes, he was originally black and gay, and now he eventually becomes white, but it is interesting that it's just one of those random mistakes that just became canon for the show.
Sure.
But he does an old film strip. It's our first film strip on The Simpsons, which becomes a running gag, which is a great part of The Simpsons lore is the film strips. Mm-hmm. But this is Smilin' Joe Fission, who's this like little atom who must be like the power plant's mascot, and he gives like a presentation on what nuclear energy is.
Sure.
And it's okay. Like it's not great, but it gives you an idea of what's to come with the jokes about film strips. Mm-hmm. I like the end when he's like, and then we just have this nuclear waste and then we get rid of it. And like why the people putting the thing together would be like they sweep it under the rug, which obviously is the joke.
Right.
And then I do also like that after it's over, the kids cheer, which is weird. Like, why did they all cheer?
Because it's over.
Yeah, that's true.
Children.
So then they're like, okay, we're going to go on a tour now. And like 3 or 4 like danger doors open.
Like you really shouldn't be entering this zone.
Which is definitely tells you like the time period that the show was made to. Because today... people are like, nuclear energy is better than a lot of the energy that we're using.
Sure.
It's still totally
not, like,
clean,
right.
But it's considered a cleaner energy. And back then, the joke was like, it's going to kill us all if we go to nuclear energy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's just kind of different how the times have changed and like
I think
where they're getting the satire.
Sure, and I think the way that nuclear plants are now are going to be a little bit...
You think they're in better shape than they were back then?
God, I would hope so. But I'm going to go with the fact that I would think that they are better than they used to be.
I hope so. So they're going on the tour, and Homer knows that the tour is coming through, and he wants to be able to see Bart.
Which is kind of cute.
Yeah, it's
kind of
cute.
funny.
So, and there's this random coworker that's like, well, they're not going to find you if you're just going to sit on your butt all day eating donuts. So
he's in his little
he's
car.
Like, oh, that's right. I gotta get where the action is. And he has this Austin Powers cart that he starts driving around. And Bart sees him and he's like, "Oh, hey, Dad! Oh, I did write down that you see Blinky in the river."
Do we see?
It's our first
Does he
appearance of
jump?
Blinky.
Oh
Yeah,
yes, I do remember seeing Blinky because I got all excited about Blinky.
Blinky, another icon from The Simpsons, the three-eyed fish.
I've always loved Blinky.
I feel like you have a stuffed Blinky, or maybe you thought about getting a stuffed Blinky when we were at Universal.
I think so. I don't have one. I want one. I think it'd be kind of funny.
You have a Santa's little helper, I think.
Probably packed away somewhere
Packed
from like
away
a
somewhere,
long time ago. Yeah.
But yeah, get a little Blinky.
Next time we go, I'll just crochet a little.
Next time we go. Homer looks up because Bart says hi, and Homer ends up hitting a pipe, which causes an accident. And his supervisor, who is Sherry and Terry's dad, fires him
in front of everybody.
In front of everyone. Very embarrassing. Very embarrassing. And that's how we get into the plot of Homer's Odyssey. It is in that way kind of like a precursor to the Simpsons episodes, which would start one way, and then like by the end of the first act, the plot would change.
Yeah, that's true.
The first act was like a setup for what it would actually be going on.
Right.
Homer is encouraged to go find a job. He doesn't have any luck. There's a montage of people slamming doors in his face. And even Bart slams the door like,
yes, like you
keep
can't come
at it,
home. Yeah.
And we get our first prank call because Homer is in despair. He goes to Moe's, and we get the first prank call of the show, which this one happens to. Well, we'll listen to it.
Moe's Tavern.
Is Mr. Freely there?
Who?
Freely. First initials IP.
Hold on, I'll check. Is IP Freely here? Hey, everybody! IP Freely! Wait a minute. Listen to me, you lousy bum. When I get home to you, you're dead. I swear I'm gonna slice your heart in half.
So that is based off of an actual thing that apparently like got passed around back in like the 80s, which is like somebody would call this like gruff bartender and do these prank names.
Oh,
and
really?
The bartender didn't catch on for a few times. So like there is this just guy asking for alcoholic and IP Freely and whatever else.
And huge ass.
I'm Huge Ass.
Huge Ass was my favorite. That used to be my...
Huge Ass is the best.
That was my name on SOCOM on the PS2.
Oh, that's right. You were Huge Ass.
I was Huge Ass. Everybody called me Hugh. That was fun.
Yeah, one of the bad things about like being a kid when you grow up, when you play online video games, you make that online name when you're like 10 years old. And you're stuck with that. Like 20 years later, you're like, why the fuck did I make myself Peter Griffin? Like, why is that?
Well, the funnier thing with SOCOM, you could change your name every time you logged in, so you were okay. But
But you were consistently Huge Ass.
Huge Ass, yes.
Yeah. As opposed to now where you would be Zap Roustauer.
Yes, absolutely,
yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
If anybody plays online and you see a Zap Roustauer, it could be me.
Yeah, right. Oh, by the way, add that to the list. So
the final sacrifice.
I don't have anything else to say here except for that I wrote Marge and Homer are on the wrong side of the bed for the next scene because they're talking about in bed how Homer can't find a job and Marge tries to get her old job as a rollerblading waitress.
Yeah.
So she takes that up while Homer's out of work.
Right.
So they have some money coming in. But they are on the wrong side of the bed.
I don't think I noticed that. Okay.
Yeah. Because Homer's always if you're looking at the bed,
yes.
Homer's always on the left,
yes.
Marge is always on the right.
Right.
And for whatever reason in this episode, they flipped sides.
And I think that's like stuck with me, that's like where the man and the woman belong. Like... Because that's how I sleep.
Rachel goes to bed with her,
that's how
her
I
husband.
sleep.
And it's like, nope, I am on the right,
Yes.
You are on the left.
Plus, that's like the closest to the door.
Yeah.
And that's
there you
where
go.
I sleep. I don't know why. It's just that's how it is.
So Homer gets into like a deep depression. He's lying on the couch. He's doing nothing. And the kids are concerned. Like, they're surprisingly like trying to like get him to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Like Bart eventually like just decides just to take it. Well, I guess we'll just take advantage of the old guy.
Right.
And so he asks him for. Oh, he asked him to sign his report card.
Yes.
Which shows that Bart's getting an F in social studies, an F in math, a D in PE, a U in science, a U in reading, and a U in writing. I guess that means underperforming?
Okay, maybe. But a D and PE. I'm
'Cause he
kind of
probably
surprised.
Doesn't want it. I bet he played like dodgeball once,
Oh,
so they
yeah,
like couldn't give
maybe.
him an F. But I guess this is another thing where like people got up in arms against the Simpsons because he was an underachiever and proud of it.
Right.
Like there was a T-shirt that said that. Like parents thought that like he was the worst role model.
Yeah, he was a
And
huge,
it's
like a
God,
bad influence on people.
Parents would be fucking folks at home. You're lucky if your kid is Bart like nowadays probably. Like he's just kind of a wise ass.
Yeah,
he's
just
not
a
like
wise
that
ass.
bad of a kid. He's just a smart ass.
If he applies himself, he can actually do something.
Well, we'll get to that episode in
Yes.
the next season.
Yes.
Because that is a good one. That's the way the kickoff season 2. But,
Right.
So I do also like the animation where Maggie pokes him in the eye. It just bubbles. So Homer sees a beer commercial while he's just laying there, and he decides, beer, that's a temporary. It's the most. It doesn't sound like Homer at all. When he goes,
No.
beer, that's a temporary solution.
Yes.
But he decides to go get one. But all that's in the fridge.
Okay, hold on. There is a very famous line that Homer says: "Beer, the cause of and
Well, not yet.
solution to all of life's problems." And I know it's not
Yes.
yet, but this is kind of a part of that. You
Yeah,
gotta duff
that's
beer.
A running theme is definitely, that they do take a lot of shots, surprisingly, at beer, because I can't remember what in the commentaries at some point they say, like, Fox will let them take as many shots as they want at cigarettes, because you can't advertise
Sure.
cigarettes. But taking shots at alcohol is hard, because alcohol is such a big advertiser on American television that it's hard to get away with it. And The Simpsons do it a lot.
Yeah, they do.
They rip into alcohol a lot. They praise alcohol a lot, but they definitely
show like
they
the
make fun
nasty
of
sides of
everything.
it too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the idea of duff, I never understood that duff is a synonym for butt, or like a colloquialism for your butt, your ass. Like get off your
get
duff.
off your duff.
I never got that. Like I found that like looking in the researching the episode.
Sure.
But that's where that comes from. There's no beer in the fridge. But there is a cake that says, "It's okay, Dad, we love you anyway." And in a fit of rage, he throws the cake like, "Damn it, no beer!" Like he did, like in a crappier sitcom, that would be like the point where he like gets the confidence to like.
Right, he sees it and cries, and he's yeah.
So he goes and he steals Bart's piggy bank. I do like this joke, where he's like, "What have I done? I smashed my kid's piggy bank, and there's not even enough for a beer." And then he goes, "Wait a minute, let me check." And then he like he does
recounts
try
it,
to
yeah.
sure, like yeah. So
I didn't
this is
realize
where
how
Homer Simpson
sad this part gets. I don't remember how.
I was about
like,
to say, this is the
holy
part where Homer
cow.
Simpson decides to murder himself.
Yes, like he really does.
Which is so bizarre that this is the third episode of this TV show.
And Homer's already trying to kill himself.
It's so weird. So he writes this note to his family, which like
it's dark.
It's a weird note too, and I think it's supposed to be like a joke because it's like never give up and all this like stuff as he's about to go kill himself.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's part of the joke.
Well, it is, because doesn't he try to move the rock and then he says, "I give up"? It like says, "I never give up," and then he's trying to move this boulder and he goes, "I give up."
He takes a rock with him.
Oh yeah, okay.
And when he gets to the bridge that he's going to throw himself off of, there's already a rock there. And he's like, oh, live and learn. Like,
yeah, okay, live and learn. Yeah. Jeez.
I did like the weirdly the Winfields, which I guess is this old couple that's their neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, it looks like the old Simpson boy is about to go kill himself. Like,
it's so weird.
I thought it was weird that they're just sitting on their porch in the middle of the night. It's very unsettling. It's almost like flying a kite in the middle of the night.
Hello, mother.
We'll get to that joke one day. We'll have 30 minutes on that joke alone. So I can't remember how the family... I think Lisa finds the note, which is even more disturbing. I can't remember how they find this, but they realize that Homer's not there.
Right.
And they try to track him down. I don't know why they think he's going to do it off the bridge. Like, maybe he added that in the note. But the family catches up to him, and a car's headed right to them. And he gets, like, the strength of, like, adrenaline rush. So suddenly it doesn't matter that he's got the boulder with him. He goes and he grabs them all out of the way.
It's that crazy adrenaline rush of I have to save my family.
Yeah. So he's able to save the family, and Marge is like, how could you ever think of, like, killing yourself? And he's like, I'm not going to kill myself. Like, I have a reason to live now. I'm going to get a stop sign put on this bridge. I mean, it's a very small...
Hey, sometimes you only need a small thing to keep you going.
Yeah, I guess so.
So there's our little moral right there. I hope that helps anybody out there.
Yeah.
You just sometimes you need to look for those small things to keep you going.
That's right. Like Shelf Life, a podcast for you to keep you going.
Yeah.
wait for the next episode of Shelf Life, because there always will be one.
Probably.
Until we get bored. But then you can go look at other podcasts, like all the ones that we've mentioned in the first 3 episodes of the show.
Like brr 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 and brr brr brr.
like the Atlanta Falcons. Do you see the problem here, folks? God. Our Simpsons episodes are a circular reference to all the other Simpsons episodes.
It's true.
But no, it's a good little lesson, and definitely don't do what Homer did here. Definitely go get help. There's always help. Anyway, some of that stuff will be cut out.
Most of it.
So, okay, where were we? So anyway, The Simpsons. So Homer and family go to a town hall meeting, which I guess the old mayor is there because it's not Mayor Quimby. But
I didn't even think about that. That's true.
It's our first appearance of, maybe this is just the city council.
True.
But it's our first appearance of Chief Clancy Wiggum. I don't think he's named Wiggum yet, but it is definitely the first appearance of Wiggum.
Right. He acts a little differently.
Yeah. He doesn't have, I don't even have a catchphrase. Wah, wah.
I lost it.
I lost it. He's not quite there, but he's passing around a sheet for El Barto, this mysterious. It's clearly just Bart,
right?
But like they think it's like some other person is like vandalizing,
and they make him look like it's an adult Bart, like on the picture and stuff, and
Well, and El Barto I think becomes like
that's a
running gag and other material, like not necessarily on the show, but like video game, the arcade game and stuff like that. He gets up to say he's going to I think there should be a stop sign here, and they immediately say like, great, done. This is actually it's a clever pun, because Homer says, they think I'm going to stop at that stop sign. They're sadly mistaken, and I'm gonna let's try that one again. And Homer says, if they think I'm going to stop at that stop sign, they're sadly mistaken. And the whole idea is that he's going to
run a stop sign,
safe signs, but the joke is that, like, you'd stop at a stop sign. But he decides he's going to put up a bunch more signs, so we get a montage of different signs. Rachel, I don't know if you caught any of the spiraling newspaper headlines. There was one sign that says sign ahead. There's a sign that says sign ahead.
Yes. A sign for the sign ahead.
I think there's another, like one of the newspaper headlines was "Enough already, Homer Simpson."
Yes. Yep.
So I like that too. But he decides that after all the signs have been put up, that nothing breaks the safety as much as the nuclear power plant. So he is going to take on the nuclear power plant. And Bart actually calls him a hero here, but he doesn't want Homer to hear it. And then he's like, "What's that, son?" And he's like, "Oh, I didn't say anything." And he's like, "Oh, I thought I heard you."
Right.
So it's like, a nice little moment that like Homer can be, he's a hero now for being like an activist, almost kind of a thing. So then we get a rally in front of the plant with like Homer's followers. There's a guy that looks kind of like Flanders, but not. That's like, I guess, in charge of this. I like Homer's line, which, unlike most of you, I am not a nut. Which I just like the idea that he thinks,
Yes.
He still thinks everyone there is a nut, but he's still on their side. And he is basically brought in by Burns to negotiate because Burns doesn't want the bad press, which is odd for Burns because I think in future episodes he would just like whatever,
right?
Like he wouldn't care. Mm-hmm. But the momentum behind Homer's cause is enough that like he decides to like meet with him. We get the first look of Burns's office, which is not as gigantic as it would be in the second season.
It's not quite as extravagant.
The polar bear is still there though.
That's
they
consistent.
kept the polar bear, yeah. And we get a duel between Burns and Homer, and Burns just tells him that he'll put him in charge of safety at the plant, basically to shut him up.
Right.
And I think this might be the first time we get the Homer internal monologue. Because he's like, "Oh, this guy's got a big desk." And like he's like,
sure.
he can't keep it straight. But he ultimately decides to take it. But the first thing he needs to do is tell his people that the plant is safe. Mm-hmm. So he goes out to do it, but he realizes that he can't
morally.
Like he sees like his family there, and he decides like he can't do it. So he comes back and he tells him he can't do it. But he kind of outsmarts Mr. Burns here.
Yeah, a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Because he says, like, if you don't give me this job, I'm going to spend every free minute I have fighting for safety. Mm-hmm. And I'll come after you. But if you give me the job, I won't have the time to do that.
Yep.
So, like, you kind of have to give me the job.
Right.
Burns, like, gets it. Like Burns realizes like, oh, you kind of got me, and gives him the job back. But you have to tell the people it's over. So he goes back out and he tells the people that he's going to make sure the plant's safe because now he's in charge of safety.
Exactly.
And then he falls off the balcony, but they all catch him. In future seasons, they would have dropped him, or he would have been too heavy, and then they would have fallen.
Right.
But he gets to leave as a hero at the end of the episode. And that is the end of Homer's Odyssey.
Yes.
What did you think of that one, Rachel, of episode 3?
It was fine. It doesn't catch me as like some of the other ones like will that get me like excited to watch it. It's a little, I don't know what the word is I want. It's a little disconnected, I feel like.
I think it's slow.
Yes.
It's still very slow. The plot doesn't really ever get going, and then the plot ends very quickly.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just a way to make him the safety inspector.
Oh, it's just a way to change his job.
Yeah, and it's so dark that he's gonna throw himself off the bridge.
That part kind of like, I get, it's too edgy. You went a little weird for having it be the third episode.
Odd. Yeah. But yeah, that's I think it's one of the worst. Not to reveal my list, but I think it's probably one of the weakest ones.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of weak.
So that was Homer's Odyssey, and we've got we just keep on rolling. So we'll be right back with another episode of The Simpsons.
Brought to you by Dr. Marvin Monroe's Family Therapy Center.
Honey, aren't you going to work today?
No, I don't think so.
Honey, you have a problem, and it won't get better till you admit it.
I admit this. You better shut your big yap.
Oh, you shut up.
No, you shut up.
No, you shut up.
Oh, shut up.
Shut up.
Shut up.
Shut up.
Why don't you both shut up?
Hi, friends. I'm Dr. Marvin Monroe. Does this scene look familiar? If so, I can help. No gimmicks, no pills. No fad diets. Just family bliss or double your money back. So call today. Dr. Marvin Monroe's Family Therapy Center. 1-800-555-HUGS. Why don't you call right now?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Simpsons Season 1.
Wait, why are you doing this?
Well, I'm doing this because this is a therapeutic episode of The Simpsons. Hopefully you listened to our sponsors, Dr. Marvin Monroe's, who...
Dr. Marvin Monroe.
Yes.
I think that's the voice.
I'm as sure of it as I'm sure my voice is annoying.
I mean, that sounds way more like the therapy that you'd get in The Simpsons than a nice soft voice.
Oh, yes. We keep going with the season here. This next episode debuted on January 28th, 1990, No Disgrace Like Home. Written by Al Jean and Mike Reiss, a writing duo that would go on to be the showrunners for like every season after season 3. They would become probably the driving force behind The Simpsons, or at least one of the driving forces, because they were the showrunners during the golden years. It's directed by two people that I do not think directed after this, Greg Vanzo and Kent Butterworth, and I do not know who either of those two gentlemen are.
I don't know.
Which probably tells you that it did not work out very well for them directing The Simpsons. I think it just wasn't a very good fit. And you can tell that because this episode is... let's say it's set in the Bizarro world.
Just a little.
Is that fair to say?
I think so.
It is. It's an episode that is kind of like none of the characters act like themselves.
No.
Down to Barney. Like
Yeah.
No one acts like themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has its moments, but we'll kind of get into it here. So the chalkboard gag. I will not burp in class.
Okay.
The couch gag, back to squashed Homer. So this time they squeezed Homer out of the couch.
Yep.
Rib tickling hilarity on those couch gags. Like, I wonder if you told them, like, they would have guests, like, modern day artists come in to do, like, 3-minute couch gags 3 decades later on the show. They'd be like, oh, we just had Bart fall off the couch.
Right.
Like,
in different ways.
So this show starts with Bart and Lisa fighting, and they're saying, and Homer pulls them apart. Homer is wearing an outfit that I don't think we see him wear since or after this. It must be his going to the company picnic outfit, because the premise is that they're going to the company picnic, and Homer is wearing shorts and like a striped shirt. It's very un-Homery.
It threw me off guard at first when I saw him in that. I was like, what are you wearing? Until it was introduced that there was a picnic.
So it turns out that they're fighting over who loves them more, but Bart is saying Lisa loves Homer more, and Lisa's saying Bart loves Homer more.
So it's just a little twist on that.
Yeah, so Homer is like just a little
the butt of the
upset
joke
about that. And Homer ends up taking a bite out of Marge's gelatin desserts, which she's made 5 plates of gelatin because at the last company picnic, Mr. Burns told Homer, or told somebody, that he likes the dessert. So Homer was like, oh, we have to make the gelatin dessert for the boss.
Right.
Which, as it turns out, like, I think Mr. Burns was just saying that to be nice.
Right. Because then everybody does
Burns,
it.
But then everyone brings it.
So he's like learned his lesson of being nice, apparently.
All it took was for everyone to bring gelatin to the company picnic.
Yep.
So Smithers is white again in this episode. He's actually a little whiter than Mr. Burns.
Yeah, I think
he was,
so.
like, when he's sitting there, because again, the colors aren't quite right.
Right.
And then you get the idea of like what Homer's up against, though, because and Homer's panicked because he thinks like the family's not going to behave while they're there.
Mm-hmm.
He knows Bart and Lisa are little hellions. And Lisa is a brat in this episode.
She's
just
kind of a
slightly
brat.
smarter than Bart, which is why they just don't act like themselves in this one.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if Al Jean and Mike Reiss kind of knew what the characters were going to be like, because it is such an early episode.
Could be.
If they just didn't understand that, like, there's defined characteristics yet or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they kind of just had the kids act like kids.
Yeah.
That's it.
And before they pass Mr. Burns, there's a family that Mr. Burns says hello to, and the kid is upset that he's there because he's missing his little league game. And as they pass by, Mr. Burns is like, "Fire that man!"
Right. So you can't have any dispute in the family.
Right. So Homer's fear is justified, even though, as we just established in the previous episode, Mr. Burns kind of needs him.
Right.
But I don't know if Homer would have the same drive if he got fired again.
Probably not.
Bart tries to, or Homer, does Homer pay off Bart? No, that's later.
That's later.
Bart and Lisa immediately become obnoxious. They are running around everywhere, and Homer's chasing after them. And Marge finds another mom. And they dump their babies off, and they just leave the happy little elves on to keep them occupied.
Yes,
basically.
And I think it works because we never come back to Maggie.
That's right. Yeah, Maggie's perfectly fine. They're perfectly content. It's what you folks at home, if you have babies, just put the happy little elves on, or more importantly, put the Simpsons on. They'll be fine.
I think Coco Melon is the craze these days.
Rachel, that's I think that's a drink or something that you rub on your body.
It does feel like more of a lotion.
Yeah, that's a lotion. I don't know what you just said, but that's definitely a lotion. Are we? I don't think we're adding Coco Melon to the list. So
no,
unfortunately for you fans. I mean, if we're 70 years old and we've run out of things to talk about, maybe we'll come back. Well, welcome to episode 9322 of Shelf Life. We're talking about Baby Shark
and Coco Melon. The crazes of children.
The crazes of children from the 20-teens. So anyway, they spike the punch, and Marge, I'm not much of a drinker. Marge gets drunk off the punch. And some of the other moms, these weird accents that you never hear in The Simpsons anymore, are bragging about their family, and Marge is trying to play up the family, but her family's so shit that she can't. But she's getting drunk, so there is this fun musical number?
Yeah, they're having they're dancing and stuff, and she's doing karaoke or something.
I guess it's an old Dean Martin song.
Okay.
I actually learned from Talking the Simpsons, which is what Marge is singing here. But it is it's this whole little musical number that Marge is enjoying the punch. And Mr. Burns is about to give a speech. Oh, before this, Bart and Homer have to do the father-son sack race.
Right.
It's mandatory. And the rules are, Mr. Burns always wins. Bart is nuts to this.
Right.
This is stupid. So I do like the part where they all have to take one. He takes a little leap, and they all have to also take just a little leap behind him. It's kind I feel like Mr. Burns would think they're patronizing him, but at the same time, maybe he doesn't care.
Sure, it's more of a power move too.
Yeah.
You have to be one step behind me.
But Bart takes it upon himself to try to win the race. He starts hustling. So Homer, to his credit, because I feel like a future Homer would have stumbled and the two of them would have fallen into dog poop or something.
Sure.
But Homer catches them, and Mr. Burns just gets past the line before Bart does. And the weirdest little animation, because it's cheap animation at this point, where Mr. Burns' arms are 10 feet long.
Yes.
And he's asking for praise.
Right.
He looks more lizardy in that shot than he ever does.
Right.
It's a head-on shot. And he's got the big vulture beak going on. Close one this year. This is where they also try to make it apparent that Mr. Burns, voiced by Harry Shearer, who's basically given up on the show at this point, but back then he tried very, very hard, and he's doing a Ronald Reagan impression, who was the former president, which the note cards are our take on Reagan, because he was losing his mind, At the time, he couldn't remember people's names, so his staff would hand him a note card with who he was about to meet. So that's like where
that's where that joke came in. Okay, yeah. With little like Maggie,
little brat. Yeah.
Right?
Or little expecting, yeah. This must be expecting.
It was brat. Expecting. Oh my god. Question.
That's Bart, sir. Don't correct the man, brat. Like that's what I think. This episode is better than the last two because there are little jokes like that are actually pretty good.
Right.
They just don't act right.
Yeah, it just there always feels like something is wrong.
Yeah. Well, even like Marge is drunk and like Burns is giving a speech, and at the end of it he's like, "Thank you all for coming," and then he's like, "I think we get our first release the hounds."
Yes.
Here. But he releases the hounds, or he says he's going to release the hounds if they don't leave in 10 minutes.
Right.
This is where that family leaves first.
Exactly.
And they're all, like, talking about how great they love each other and all that kind of stuff.
And then the son gives his dad a kiss. And this is when Homer turns to the boy, like to Bart, and tries to pay him to give him a kiss. Or he does. Actually, he does. He does pay him
$5 for a kiss. Yeah.
Right.
But Mr. Burns sees right through it.
Right.
So luckily he doesn't fire Homer, but he sees through the attempt.
Yeah. Though there's a little guys right there. He's like, no, that's really obvious and sad.
But Homer in the parking lot like talks to the dad of the one family, and he's like, "Oh, like please, like you guys don't really care about each other." And he says like, "Oh, I pity you," or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we get this bizarre, like this almost feels weird. Like it should be Marge and not Homer. But
yes.
we get this animation where Homer sees the family as all like demons. They're all in the car and they're like, "Come on, Homer!" Like,
oh yeah, right.
More.
Yeah.
And they're doing one of us. Which, for those of you that do not know, the one of us, it comes from, I can't remember the year. It's from the 30s, but it's a horror movie called Freaks. Have you seen that one, Rachel?
I have not seen Freaks.
You might have to add that one to the list.
I love it when there's something new
like
for me.
It's 40 minutes long. You might. The disturbing part about it is the plot of that movie is it's all with people that have deformities. And they're real deformities. So it's like the half man, and it's like a little person, and somebody that was born with like webbed feet and stuff like that. It's like, and it's supposed to be like the freak show at a circus.
Okay.
And the plot is the one guy still looks like a little kid, even though he's like in charge of it, and the one person is trying to steal his money.
Okay.
And the freaks confront her. And they do one of us, gooble gobble. So like that's where that comes from.
Right.
So it's famous, but like in 1990,
mm-hmm.
I don't think a lot of people got that. Like now, because you can find everything, but I don't think a lot of people would have gotten that reference.
Probably not, unless it was that popular still.
Which is possible, but I think it's just one of those things where it's like everyone
a little deeper.
Everyone in the writer's room knew about this kind of stuff,
sure.
Like the fact that Mr. Burns' manor looks like Xanadu from Citizen Kane, like it's designed to look that way.
Right.
It's every frame is so dense. There's so much packed into it. Stay tuned. But and Citizen Kane's on the list, folks. Don't worry about that. So anyway, Homer is disappointed now that he thinks like he has this bad family. And there's one night he walks in and the family's eating their dinner. They're eating like TV dinner in front of the TV. And he's disappointed and he wants them to eat at the dining room table.
Okay.
And he thinks that like a normal family would eat at the dining room table. Homer decides to take them on a quest to find, because he's trying to tell them that like, no, normal families like sit at the dining room table. And Lisa's basically like, I hate to tell you, Dad, but like, we're the norm. Like, people don't do that.
Right.
It's a meta commentary on the idea that like the Simpsons are the normal family, like the ones that you see on TV that like eat at the dining room table and like do all that stuff. That's
the
not
perfect
real.
family.
Yeah. The first family that they find is oddly all around the table. And I couldn't tell if this is supposed to be some sort of animation or something that we're supposed to like get an idea, but it's like this big family and the dad's wearing a shirt, and like that, like they're They're all loving. That's the first one. The second one, they're having a conversation and the Simpsons can't hear it. But it turns out that and the little kid leaves, and Homer speculates that it's to get the old man's
slippers or something. Yeah.
Pipe and slippers.
Right.
But it's really to get the gun.
Because there's somebody out front.
There's somebody in the bushes.
Mm-hmm.
And then they don't realize it's their house, and they're like, oh, what a dump. Like, this place sucks. And then Homer's like, I even stepped on their flowers.
And then Marge is annoyed because she's like, this is your house.
Yeah. So Homer's, like, upset about all of that, so he decides to go to Moe's, which I think this is the 4th episode, or 3rd. Bart the Genius is the only one that he doesn't go to Moe's in.
Right.
So Homer is there, and Barney picks a fight with him, because Barney is, like, saying that all of his kids are little hooligans, and, like... And
it's
Homer's
really
like,
odd that he says something like that.
Barney wouldn't bring this up. And I feel like Barney's only connection to, like, people is through Homer and the kids. So I just don't see...
I feel like he actually likes them. And he's sounding like he doesn't.
Right, exactly. Because Homer's like, you can't call my kids that way. And he goes, well, at least 2 of them. Meaning Lisa and Maggie. And Barney goes, do you have 2 I haven't met? And they start fighting. Yeah, it's really mean. So they start fighting, and the whole idea is, like, there's a boxing match going on the TV, and in typical fashion here, Barney knocks out Homer, because Barney is good at boxing, as we find out in future episodes where he beats, which boxing, well, he knocks out Wade Boggs.
Right.
Yeah, so he can,
I mean, Homer can take a punch, but that's about all he can do.
But while on the floor... we get Homer overhears the commercial, which was our sponsor of Marvin Monroe's Family Therapy Center, and he gets the idea. Well, he gets the life's answers aren't found at the bottom of the bottle. They're on TV or whatever he says.
Mm-hmm.
So we come back, and it's probably the first Itchy and Scratchy.
It is. It is the debut of Itchy and Scratchy. They actually have that in the notes.
Oh, okay.
For the episode.
Oh, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first Itchy and Scratchy. Obviously, a take on Tom and Jerry, but the idea is that it's
way more violent.
Ultra violent.
I mean, Tom and Jerry did get pretty violent, though.
Well, and the idea too is like it shows the violence. Like, it'll show, like,
Oh, yeah, it actually shows it on screen, instead of just, like, implying it and it being off screen.
Like, Wile E. Coyote gets blown up, but then he's perfectly fine. And
right.
Instead, like, they'll show Wile E. Coyote getting, like, blown up, and or they'll show Scratchy getting blown up, but, like, his intestines will be falling out, or whatever it is. Homer unplugs the TV, and he's saying that he's going to tell the family that they're going to go to therapy, that they're going to go to Dr. Marvin Monroe's. And Lisa gets offended because she says, you're going to take us... Or Homer first says, well, of all the commercials, his was the best, which is funny.
Right.
And then Lisa gets offended and is like, you're going to take us to a place that advertised on pro wrestling? And Homer goes, boxing, Lisa, boxing. It's a world of difference. Which he's right.
Yeah, that's true.
Because while one of them is more entertaining... And both are fake. So,
that is a bold statement. How dare you call pro wrestling fake?
I'm sorry. You're right. You're right. It's predetermined. It's not fake. Boxing is fake. So Homer decides the amount of money that they need to pay. Like, they're going to take the money out of the kids' college fund. The kids' college fund is $88. Which is not enough because you need $250 to get the therapy. $88 probably not enough back then to go to college
either.
Now it would be enough to get you a letter to send to the college to try to get into the college.
Yeah, it's not even enough to get a book.
Because weren't there like a lot of colleges too that like made you pay to do an application?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
so
in
like
fact,
I don't even think that $88 would probably be enough for that.
Oh man, it's ridiculous. A lot of the times when you want to do the graduate programs too, you have to pay to enter.
Yes. Well, yeah, it depends on if it's, like, for me, I think it was the same. I didn't have a fee because I went to the same school. So
Sure.
they were just like, yeah, you don't have to pay a fee.
But if you're applying to places, you have to apply to every one of those and pay to apply. It's so ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. They decide because of this they're going to pawn the TV. So Homer,
which is kind of funny because it took TV to find the therapist, and now he's selling the TV to go to the therapist.
That's right. Really makes you think. It's a message. It's a real message.
It's a definite message in this one.
I think it's weird too because Homer's so out of character. Like Homer being the one to do this.
I think he'd pawn anything else but the TV.
Yeah, but he really thinks it's like necessary. Even Marge is like telling him not to do it.
Right, which just seems opposite.
And Homer, so they get the money to pawn the TV, which the guy at the pawn shop makes it seem like Homer comes there all the time. He's got a weird voice too. He's got that creepy voice that you don't hear after season 1. You know what I mean? It's like that voice, like, how you do, Simpson?
Yeah,
like,
I don't...
Like, Herman has it too in a couple episodes a little bit. And it's like, this voice does not come back.
If it does, then it only comes back for, like, Treehouse of Horror.
The family that was so nice at the picnic is at the therapy center, so maybe they were lying a little bit about being
just
all
that
happy.
perfect. Most of the time, the perfect ones are the ones that have the most issues.
And
Little commentary on that one.
Rachel will do another episode about that. Yeah, all these little commentaries. There's another family, a rip-off version of The Simpsons that leaves happy, and that convinces Homer that he's doing the right thing. I really wish that they would have made them look more like the Flintstones or something.
Oh, it would have been great.
Like not just full on out, but like something like that. Like nowadays, it would have been like the Griffins, or like
it would be.
Hill.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be walking out happy. So
yeah,
the King of the Hill might be, but not the Family Guy. Someone would be crying.
Like, I'm saying like if they were doing like the version of the Simpsons comes out.
Right. No, I agree.
So this is probably the most highlighted part of the episode. It's probably the best part of the episode. It's the therapy with Marvin Monroe, which is good. Like the gags in here are pretty good.
It's entertaining.
They start by drawing things that make them anxious, and everyone draws Homer. It's all like different versions of Homer. But
and then Homer's not paying attention.
Yeah. He just draws planes bombing things.
But like isn't it a plane crash or is it a plane bombing things?
Oh, I can't remember.
Because either way, that could be true. Why can't him being like in a plane crash make him anxious?
I wrote down it's a plane dropping bombs.
So maybe it is. Oh my gosh. I guess that could make you anxious too if you're like afraid of that. But he wasn't paying attention. He just started drawing.
Right, he just started drawing. He wasn't paying attention. And Dr. Marvin Monroe, who's apparently a character that Matt Groening doesn't like because of the voice. He doesn't like. He doesn't like
the grating voice. Okay.
Well, apparently it hurts Stan Castellaneta. Or does Stan Castellaneta do this one? I gotta see who does this one.
Well, then he wouldn't like Marge's voice. Marge is gravelly.
Well, it's like he's okay with Krusty, but for some reason Marvin Monroe's was like put him over the top.
Okay.
Harry Shearer does it. So apparently it hurts Harry Shearer's voice to do it a little bit. So they kind of went away from doing it a little bit. And it was annoying for Matt. So they just decided not to do that. That's why he ends up dead. Pretty soon off screen.
Spoiler alerts.
He decides that they need to up it a little bit because the therapy's not working. So he goes because Homer goes to hit Bart with a lamp. Like Homer immediately like grabs a lamp to like whack Bart over the head with it.
Yeah.
And Monroe's like, okay, this is good. This is healthy. You want to kill each other. That's good. So he decides to go get them like these padding mallets to whack
each other with.
So they can whack each other with. And
just to get that like feeling of hitting each other.
To get the aggression out. Yeah.
Right.
I like that, like the little like Maggie.
Yes, it's so cute.
And she's whacking Homer. And then Bart realizes, well, if you just take the padding off, it works a lot better.
Yeah, because they were like, this isn't doing anything.
They just nails Dr. Monroe with it. So they decide like they need to go to more extensive methods. And this is where I think it's supposed to be like a Clockwork Orange I don't think you've ever seen this movie, Rachel. It should probably be on the list for the sake of how well known it is. You probably won't like it, but that's the whole point of doing the show. Because there's scenes in there where they try to do like therapy on him to make him change his behavior.
Interesting.
So this is similar, where they have them all set up. All 5 of them are set up with shock therapy. Which why you would put Maggie,
a baby, or even the children shouldn't be a part of this. But God.
With the whole idea being that if somebody says something emotionally hurtful, you shock them physically. And of course things get out of hand right away because Bart does it
just for fun.
It's like, my finger slipped, and then as it would make sense, like, so they're all shocking each other, and then Maggie, because she's a baby,
just pressing buttons.
The buttons.
Like, why would you think a baby would know to press the button at the right time or be pressed at? Like, and the funnier part to me is that she's pressing buttons, but she's also getting shocked. And like, and like Marge gets shocked. Like, why are the, like, oh yeah, Marge is trying to discipline the kids by shocking them both.
You are wired into the rest of your family. You have the ability to shock them, and they have the ability to shock...
Testing.
Why you? No, Homer, not yet. You see, this is what is known as aversion therapy. When someone hurts you emotionally, you will hurt them physically, and gradually you will learn not to hurt each other at all. And won't that be wonderful, Homer?
Oh, yes, Doctor.
Bart, how could you shock your little sister?
My finger slipped.
So did mine.
Bart, Lisa, stop that.
No, wait a minute. Wait. Folks, if I could... this is not the way to get healthy!
It just gets very out of hand. It's funny, but it gets very out of hand.
So all the electricity is being taken out because of this, and like the people are leaving because they think like something crazy is happening, and they can't stand it. So Monroe pulls the plug on it because he's like, there's just no hope for this family. And Homer reminds him that, like, well, you said if it doesn't work, we get double our money back. So they walk out with 500 big ones, which even today you could buy a decent television for.
Oh, yeah.
So they're like, well, let's go get the TV back. And Homer goes like, no, we're not going to go get the TV. We're going to go get a bigger TV. Oh, here it says... on the Simpsons wiki, the idea behind the scene in which the family takes turn electrically shocking each other was based on Laurel and Hardy throwing pies at each other.
Oh.
Although more sadistically.
I like your interpretation better.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that because, like, the whole idea of a lot of these early Simpsons is you take something from classic comedy and you put a more sadistic spin on it.
You make it edgier.
Yeah. So I could see that. So anyway, they decide to go get a new TV with a wad of cash, and the family walks away happy. And one thing we haven't mentioned a lot, the score isn't totally there in a lot of these early episodes, but it's an odd score when it is there, I think, and it's because it's not Alf Clausen.
Oh.
It's a different composer, did season 1, Alf Clausen came in season 2, and I think that becomes readily apparent in some of these episodes because you get louder stings in certain spots, and I feel like Alf Clausen was more about toning it to the mood, and this composer made it more like cartoony.
Okay.
Because you get that, like, bingo comes back as the score at the end when they're walking away, and I feel like you wouldn't have gotten that with Alf Clausen.
Right.
But they decide that they're all happy together just the way they are, which they will learn again from Sherry Bobbins years later.
I almost started singing.
I won't do it now. I can't promise that in a few years when we do the Sherry Bobbins episode, I will
It's a musical. Sing. I'm gonna sing. I will say I will sing.
Rachel's warning you all now, gentle listener, that she will sing. But that is a No Disgrace Like Home. An odd episode. It has good bits. It is funny. I do think it has some funny bits. The third act is really good. It's just so bizarre the way that they all act with each other.
It is. I think it really is. And it just feels like they either were using the wrong character to get everything rolling, or, each character was just behaving like a stereotypical child or stereotypical wife or something like that. You know, it just felt a little bit more general than the actual characters themselves.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily think that this is like a bad one necessarily, but it's a little odd.
It's just different. It does feel like parallel worldy.
Another note about this one, this is the first appearance of Eddie and Lou.
Oh, yes.
They walk into the bar. Lou's not black yet. He's yellow.
Yep, that was weird.
So they haven't made Lou black yet. And the joke there is that Mo asks if they want peanuts. And they're like, no, we're on duty. We'll get a beer.
Yes.
So proto super bad almost there. And then, of course, he doesn't have them pay.
Mm-hmm.
It should be noted that Itchy and Scratchy were in the shorts, but this is the first time that they were on the TV show.
Right. Yes.
So anyway, that is episode 4. So wait a minute. That's it. We got more. What are we doing? We're out of fans. We're out of time. We're out of time, fans. Come back.